This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is our Wrestle Kingdom 14 Night 1 Instant Reaction Show. We did this last year at Wrestle Kingdom 13. We're doing it again here at 7:30 in the morning Eastern Time. So I can't really be this loud probably the entire time. But we're back here both nights. We're going to be doing 2 live shows on YouTube, and then that will be combined together into episode number 126 of Omakase. So you might be listening to this back later. That's cool too. But hopefully you've joined us here live. Thank you if you have. And of course, thank you as always for listening to the podcast as well. I have 3 guests here, one of whom, actually no, 2 of whom are first-time guests, so that's a cool way to start 2020. First of all, I should start with you, Chris, since you get shouted out pretty much on a daily basis now, it seems like, on these broadcasts. But welcome to Chris Samsa of the Voices of Wrestling and the Statistics of Pro Wrestling.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
I actually just listened to you do the preview on the PW Torch, which I thought was a great show too. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. I finally got on some audio with Alan 4L, so that was a trip.
But yeah, very happy to have you here. Hopefully okay, cool. We are live apparently. Thank you to Liam from the Wednesday War Games for confirming that we're on. He told me to shout him out as my favorite VOW contributor, which I don't know if I can quite do that, Liam, but you're one of my favorites. How about that? But there you go. But thank you, Chris, for coming on. Also coming on for the first time, Tyler, originally from the Super J-Cast Discord, and now a Voices of Wrestling contributor as well. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, John. Good to be on. I appreciate you having me.
What's happening?
Oh, well, we just saw a fantastic Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm excited to talk about it.
By the way, what time zone are you guys? I should have asked that right away. You're both Central, right? I think.
I am Central Standard Time.
Same here. Good old
6:27. Yep.
Yeah, so it's 7:30 in the East, on the East Coast, obviously. And then Paul, of course, you're over there in Europe. Our third guest here, Mr. Paul Volsch, returning guest. You get to, what time is it there? It's noon, right? 12:30 p.m.
It's just past noon right now, so I'm just happy and awake and ready to face the rest of the day. How about you guys?
Oh, I'm good.
Same.
I gotta go to bed soon, but I'm gonna try to power through this. Are you guys actually gonna go to sleep, or are you just gonna try to stay up for the entire day?
I have no idea.
I'm going to let my body decide. I'm probably just going to end up staying up. I drank a bang while I was watching the show, so I'm not sleeping anytime soon.
I figure I sleep all day today, and I'll be ready to go for midnight, so that'll be my plan. Used to be regular life back in my early 20s, so I can slip back into that slime ball lifestyle.
I just woke up without an alarm at 6:50 today and just turned on the show. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be nice. Tonight shouldn't be so bad as the day goes on here, because it's kind of just like a late night
Right.
with timing. So maybe I will get a nap in after I throw a bunch of numbers on the internet.
Oh, we got Emilio in the chat here saying it's 7:30 where he is as well. And by the way, we do have a live chat too, which is one of the cooler parts of being live on YouTube, obviously. So if you are listening live, which it seems like a bunch of you are already, feel free to throw stuff in the live chat, and I might read it on the air. In the meantime, let's start breaking down Wrestle Kingdom. I'm going to say the same thing we did last year, which is start at the top. So hopefully hit the major matches before, we really start running out of energy. But yeah, so what does everybody think of the main event? First of all, I guess Okada and Ibushi. I feel like it's going to be a divisive match to some degree when it comes to the way that I guess a lot of major Okada title matches are divisive, but it seems like a lot of people are already much higher than I am. So I assume we have a few on the episode that are. So why don't I start? I'll start with you, Chris. What did you think of Okada versus Ibushi? And I guess were you one of the people that really thought Kota had a chance, or did you kind of think it was Okada from the beginning?
I was probably 70-30. And the 30 was probably just that I wanted Kota Ibushi to win, because he is my favorite of these four. In the sense of how the match went, though, I mean, they had me at a couple of points, and it kind of it takes a little bit more now than ever to get me to believe that the underdog is going to come out the winner. So they had some spots in there that got me screaming at my television in surprise more than anything. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it was the next level up from their G1 match, which I really liked too. So it met my already high expectations.
So that's interesting that you compared to the G1 match, because I definitely thought it was a little bit below the G1 match, so that'll be an interesting comparison point. So I guess I'll just say right now, the big problem I had with the match was the same problem I end up having with a lot of big Okada title matches, which is the 15-minute call happened, and it just felt like literally nothing had happened. And even on the Okada big title match scale, it felt particularly egregious in that way, where it just felt like a lot of resting, pretty much a lot of rest holds and not very interesting stuff. Whereas the Sonata Okada title matches, which some people didn't like, and I thought 3 out of the 4, not title, but 3 out of the 4 Okada Sonata matches I thought were really good. The Dontaku one would have been the only bad one. I thought the early mat work in those matches was actually really interesting, which is one of the reasons why I thought those matches were a level above some of the other recent Okada major matches. But here, I don't know, the first 15 minutes were just so boring that it took the match down at least a little bit for me. After that, it did really pick up, and especially after maybe the 20-minute mark, it could get really good. So by the end, I still went 4.25 on it, and I thought they really bumped their asses off and saved it. And they did convince me towards the end too that I really thought Ibushi might pull it out. I mean, I thought Ibushi might pull it out going in. Honestly, I thought I would have picked Okada to begin with, but I felt far less certain about the winner than I did for Naito and Jay White, which we're going to talk about. That hurt that match for me, where it just felt like I never believed that Jay White had even a chance in hell of winning. But Okada Ibushi, they actually did convince me a few times that Ibushi might pull it out. So that was really good, and I gave them a little bump for that too, because I thought they did a really good job with the near falls and stuff towards the end. But yeah, so I'm at 4.25, which seems to be lower than some people, and I suspect might be the lowest on the show. What did you think, Tyler? What was your star rating stuff on this, I guess, and also did they ever convince you that Kota was going to win? Did you think Kota was going to win going in?
I honestly didn't know what to think of this whole double tournament going in, because you could make a justification for all 4 men coming out with it. Obviously,
I will be honest. I never in a million years thought Jay White was winning this thing. I didn't get what the fuck people were talking about with that. Like, I could never picture them ending a Wrestle Kingdom with Jay White holding both belts up and like him and Gato cackling. It's funny to think about, but I never thought that even had a chance in hell. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I never believed it would happen, but I could see it happening. They kind of strapped the rocket pack onto Jay White from the second he came back from Excursion, the Tanahashi match at the Dome 2 Kingdoms ago, and then he won the IWGP title in February. It wouldn't have shocked me if they decided to just roll with it, but I think at the end of the day, Naito Okada was the right way to go. I actually went full 5 on Ibushi Okada, and I think one of the reasons why the first 15 minutes really felt slower was because that Jay White Naito match was kind of a letdown right after the Ospreay Hiromu match. But the highs in this match were just masterclass. Ibushi went on a murderous rampage. There were a couple instances in the match where I thought it was a legit shoot and they just wanted to absolutely kill each other. And it felt like a fight. It had a big fight feel when Ibushi kicked out of that Rainmaker, when Okada had him stacked up. They had me believing Ibushi was going to win. And then when Okada ended up Rainmakering him 3 times, it was a little bit of a letdown in that aspect, but I think they made the right decision, and we're in for one hell of a match tomorrow night with him and Naito.
I think him and Naito do have a chance to even top Okada Ibushi, so I guess we'll see. But I mean, Naito did kind of save himself for it, honestly, which I guess we'll talk about in a second. Paul, I guess same basic question: what did you think of Okada Ibushi? Did you think Okada was going to win coming in? Did they ever convince you during the match that Kota was going to win?
Yeah, so going in, I was pretty convinced that Okada was going to win, and they did actually get me a couple of times where I was like, after Okada hit him with those 2 Rainmakers and then Ibushi reversed the third, that's when I was convinced that, oh shit, Ibushi is actually winning this. And then they go on this like crazy closing stretch where that's just amazing. And then when Okada finally hit that final Rainmaker on Ibushi, I was actually wearing a hat at that time. I was like literally like springing up from my couch and throwing my head into a corner and like jumping for joy. It's like I have to say, like, I do get the criticisms early on in the match, and I wouldn't say that this was my match of the night, but I still think it was pretty damn good, and that closing stretch was really as good as any as I've seen of both men.
So we were all in agreement then that Okada was winning going in, but we all kind of did bite on a few of the Kota stuff. I mean, that one, I didn't think Kota was going to win when he hit that Kamigoe, just because I kind of figured they were doing the each getting a kick out thing. But once Ibushi like hit his own Rainmaker, basically, I thought that at that point maybe he could, basically pull it out from there.
Sorry, John. There was a part of me that thought that they were going to tell the story of Okada trying to hit too many Rainmakers and it backfiring on him the way that the Destino piece backfired on Naito a couple years ago.
Right. Which maybe that could be something for tomorrow.
Right. That would be an awesome story tomorrow, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess any other final thoughts on Okada Ibushi before we move on to the other match and then we get into the talk for tomorrow? Anyone?
I think the only thought I have coming out of this is where Kota Ibushi goes from here, because we really haven't seen the murderous side of Ibushi over the last couple of years in New Japan. So where he takes this growth on his character and how he utilizes it moving forward, I think is going to be really fun coming out of New Year's Dash.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it reminded me. I could not believe that like when he went into Murder Kota mode, that people actually booed him. I'm like, who the fuck can have sympathy for Okada? Who's like, I mean, I'm not nothing against him as a person, but like as a character, he's like the cockiest fucking frig of all time. I'm like, I couldn't believe people actually booed Kota for beating the crap out of this guy. It just, especially after the entire build, he was like such a jerk to him.
I think it was because when Kota was just punching Okada in the face, it didn't feel like a wrestling match. It felt like a shoot fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the crowd was thinking too.
Yeah. And I want to.
Yeah, and
And you have to remember that the crowd in there, like, Okada is like their guy. He's been the ace for like forever. So like, I think people like they know that Okada is like the cocky guy, but he's their cocky guy. And I'm not sure that they like. I know that he's signed now and everything, but I'm not sure that they have fully accepted Kota as like a proper New Japan guy now, the same way they have obviously with Okada.
Yeah, and I Liam, by the way, brought up in the chat that like he bit when Ibushi hit the V trigger, which I totally forgot about. That was a great little callback. It was interesting little callback given some stuff I've heard lately, but it was still cool that Kota hit a V trigger as like a little reference. Chris, I think you were about to say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think on the character side of thing with Ibushi, we're gonna see Jay White try to leverage this tomorrow, because they've been kind of running that angle of Jay White trying to recruit Kota Ibushi, and I think that's a long shot that they actually kind of go with it, but I think that this can open the door for some story pieces.
Yeah. But that's Okada Ibushi. Let's move over to Naito and Jay White, which I'm sure is a little bit of a controversial match. So here's obviously the biggest thing and the easiest problem. I mean, this match really could not follow Will and Hiromu, which we're going to talk about in a second. I think was the clear match of the night, and I can kind of understand if you have the main hire, I guess, but I don't really think it was actually that close. And Will Hiromu was this like crazy, totally out of control match, and this was a very much slower like character work type match. So it had that disadvantage going right away. The crowd just I would have switched. I get what they did here. They wanted to have the double gold end the show, but I really would have like swapped these two, and I think this match would have worked a lot better coming off of that quick street fight or the quick Texas death match with Moxie and Archer. But that's not what they did, so you gotta only talk about what they did. And the problem was, on top of that, there was like way too much Gato interference for me. It just went on and on and on and on with the interference spots and the ref bumps and the fucking low blows and the all this bullshit. And just every time I would finally get into the match, it just felt like the Gato shit would happen again, and it would just like totally lose me again. I thought Naito was really good here, which I'm sure will not surprise people listening, but I thought his selling especially was amazing, like his leg selling. I wish it had gone somewhere, to the end, which would have definitely improved the match for me. But I thought his actual selling was incredible. And like, there's one point where he does this, he tries to kick off the rope like he always does for that like tornado DDT, and he misses it on purpose, which I'm almost positive was like, again, not a botch, just something he did like on purpose to sell the leg, which I thought was incredible. So that was an incredible moment, and there was a lot of little incredible touches from Naito. There was also like a really awkward sequence towards the end that I don't know whose fault it was, where they kind of like got mixed up, and then right after that we got more fucking ref bumps. So end of the day, I could not go higher than 3.5 stars. People have told me they went 5 on this, which I'm like, I thought I loved Naito. But like 3.5 is about where I'm at. I thought it was nowhere close to their Destruction and Kobe match, which was 4.5. And the other problem, which I kind of hinted at before, is I never once believed that Jay White was winning this. I never in a million trillion years thought Jay White was going to beat Naito. I mean, it's not that I'm 100% sure that Naito's winning the double gold, especially if he had been up against Kota tomorrow, but like, I never once for a second thought they were going to put Jay White through to that main event tomorrow. It just made no sense to me. So I didn't really feel any drama in this match. Even, towards the end, a little bit, where it's like, oh, well, maybe if he, spins out and hits this Blade Runner, then maybe they're really about to fuck me. But, like, almost no drama for me, at least. So that hurt the match, too. I never believed that Naito was losing. So I think if it felt more plausible, I just didn't see them jobbing Naito to Jay White 3 times unless he was about to report to fucking Winter Park, Florida, or wherever the hell it is. So there you go. I guess get in here, Chris. What did you think of the match? Do you disagree with my takes about, I guess, if you believe Naito had any chance of losing this, and if it hurt the match for you at all, anything like that?
Yeah, I think that hurt the match. I think that hurts a lot of New Japan matches after the G1, to be perfectly honest. That like super obvious, this is where this is headed booking. So, even going back to like any title defense or any briefcase defense between the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom. So, this was in line with that for me. As for the match, I loved Naito's selling. I think that added it added a wrinkle that that misses from some of those types of matches. I think it could add to what they do tomorrow if Naito continues to sell the knee. So I think if you remove all the Gato stuff, I like the match a ton more. I think I like Jay White matches when Gato is minimally involved, if any, at all.
I agree. And do you remember at Destruction in Kobe? I feel like he was nowhere near as involved.
He was not. I remember liking that. Hell, I remember loving that match. So, yes, he must not. He could not have been as involved as he was today. There's no way he was doing chair shots and jumping in the last third of the match too. So I could be wrong on some of the details of that, but
yeah, I feel like I remember him like tripping up Naito like a couple times on the floor maybe, and that maybe might have been the extent, or getting up on the apron once or twice, and that's really it. Nothing like getting in the ring.
Right. Nothing like tonight. So I think if they could have removed some of that and they could have had the same match essentially, and Naito could have sold the knee the same way, and Jay White would have looked stronger, and Naito would have come out looking potentially even weaker going into tomorrow as a bigger underdog. So I think the match was fine. They never got me though. Like we came into Okada and Ibushi thinking, okay, Okada's going to win this, especially after Naito won. And they got me at least to think, well, maybe they're going to do it. And at no point did I think that Jay White was winning this match. Even though I know they like him there. They like him a ton, and they like to put him in those big matches, and they liked for him to be in the main event because it creates this true good guy, bad guy dichotomy. So, but yeah, it was a good match. I don't do star ratings, but I would agree with everyone who puts it kind of in that middle tier.
I want to mention something I'm going to bring up in the chat real quick, because Amor Starwind made a great point that like that he said, I hated that Bushi didn't come out and drag Gato away. And then Justin Lehman said, I know why they usually don't, but it never makes sense to me why LIJ never runs out to help Naito from interference. They used to a lot more, honestly, and it's a little annoying that they don't do it anywhere near as much. I mean, they're turning into chaos where like, why Naito has all these friends? Why the fuck aren't any of them coming out here to stop Gato from interfering? That is kind of stupid, and I can't really disagree with that take. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that up in the chat because I thought that was a great point that I did not think of. Let's see, what else? What other takes do we have here on this Naito White match? What do you think, Tyler? Did you ever think for a second Naito was losing, and what did you think of the match?
I did think that there was a chance that Naito was losing, but the longer the match dragged on, it just didn't feel like he could. One of the nice parts about Jay White is the second he hits a Blade Runner, the match is over. That finishing move has been incredibly protected, and it can come out of nowhere as Jay White's offense is really built around counters. So I always had a little voice in the back of my head saying it was possible, but it did really feel like Naito was going to end up winning. I completely agree with Chris in that Naito's selling was fantastic. Those DDT spots where he plants his foot on the top rope, they kind of looked botched, but they really looked intentional from Naito. And I know you made a comment in the chat about that earlier, John. It just felt like masterclass selling, and him collapsing as he's running the ropes, just really selling that knee. But it also was really interesting that after the match, he is like skying off the top rope and landing really hard on his feet on the outside with that knee instead of just rolling out of the ring, which I found interesting. And like it just felt like that kind of took a little bit away from it for me. Just if you're gonna sell it, just stay consistent. It doesn't matter if you're gonna no sell it or sell it. Just
people never
be
care.
consistent.
Nobody cared when Will Ospreay did that against Tanahashi. But,
that's very fair.
That's why. I mean, people love that match, but that destroyed that match for me. And that was in the middle of the match. He just kind of like suddenly his leg was fine, but I don't know. People are very choosy, I guess, on who to apply that standard to.
I think it's all situational too, and I think you can make the argument with Ospreay, and you can make it with this match too, that based on who the opponent is and kind of like if you're a football player and you're playing in the Super Bowl, you're going to play harder than you are in like week 5. So going up against Tanahashi and Sumo Hall, you can make the argument that Will's taking it to the next level. So I can see
you could say the same thing with Naito here then.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say too. Like you can say the same with Naito at Tokyo Dome. You should stay consistent with that. But I also want to bring up a point that I saw Joe Lanza make, in that I'm surprised that they're going with Naito in his underdog story, considering what happened 2 years ago at the Dome, and then at Wrestle Kingdom 8, where he got voted out of the main event, where it feels like that should be more of the story instead of Naito hurt his knee in this match, and then he's got to come from that underdog role. I'm very interested in what you guys think about that.
Well, I think they're I don't know. I think they really want to go over the top to convince you that Okada's going to win tomorrow, because I think it does seem a little obvious that this is going to be I shouldn't say that, because once the match actually starts, I'll still be nervous. But like, it feels pretty obvious that Naito is going to win tomorrow right now. So I think they're just trying to do anything they can to get that seed of doubt going, probably. That's what I would think. I don't know how much the knee's going to have to do with it. We'll have to wait and see the match tomorrow. But, I just think they're trying to get that seed of doubt in your head because, I don't know, it feels kind of... It's a very logical story, which, New Japan tends to do very logical stories, but that also means it can feel kind of obvious, and it does feel kind of obvious right now. So I think it's just a seed of doubt type thing.
That's fair.
Did you want to jump in here, Paul? What did you think of the match? The point Tyler just made, if you want to add anything, or did you ever think Jay had a chance, and did they ever convince you during the match?
So, me teasing you before the match kind of was about Jay potentially winning, was mostly me just doing shtick. Like, I do think there was an off chance to me that Jay might actually win the match, simply because I was convinced previously that Okada was winning his match, so I thought that there would have been a chance that they're gonna do Okada White on night 2, so that Okada can get his win back from 1 year ago.
Well, I get that argument, but he got his win back at MSG. That's why I didn't understand about that argument.
He got his win back, but I do think it still would have been kind of like, because he beat him at the Dome, which still is kind of the bigger deal in a way. I thought at least there was an off chance. Like I said, I still was convinced that Naito was going to win, but I think there was a minor chance at least that they would do it again just so he can get his win back. But once the match actually started, there was like no doubt in my mind ever that Naito was actually losing this. And maybe that was just the way the match was structured, and I didn't really super like the early parts of it. I did kind of like it as it went on, but it was also very much based on Naito's performance itself rather than really anything that White did. Like, I still have somewhat mixed feelings on Jay White overall. I think he has kind of picked up a bit. Like, I really didn't like his first half of 2019. I did kind of like his second half of 2019 more.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But kind of this match kind of didn't really help kind of ease my kind of concerns, so to say. But like, Naito very much kind of carried that match and kind of his selling and everything. And when he was on offense, like, it was just way more dynamic and everything. So I think they really made the right call on having Naito go to night 2, and I do think it's kind of obvious, as you said, that he's going to win, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still looking forward to the match, though.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a really... I mean, I've always felt the two of them have really underrated matches. You know, the one 2 years ago was really good, even though I could never rewatch it. The Cork and Hall one from, 2012 when Okada first came back was, just incredible and maybe one of the most underrated matches ever. And even the 2014 match, the bad vote match, I guess you could say, was still, a really awesome match. And the fact that they actually, I think, anyway, destroyed that Tanahashi-Nakamura match that the fans voted into the main event for that show. So, I think they'll have a really good match tomorrow. I'm not really that worried about the match quality. This didn't click for me, but I really think, more than anything, it was the Gato stuff that really dragged it down, because, I really liked what Naito tried to do with the selling. And, it was boring early on, but so was Okada Ibushi. And every time, but it's the difference was, every time I would sort of get back, I would, be almost really into it and be feeling oh, maybe it's back above, 4 stars now. The Gato shit would just fucking ruin it for me again. So, if you get rid of the Gato stuff, I think this would have been, a 4-star match, easy, maybe even higher. And that's my other point with Jay White, I've liked him a lot in the second half of the year too. The same thing as you. The first half of the year I wasn't that into it, and the second half I thought he improved a lot. But he has to get past this Gato stuff. He really has to drop it. Not even if it's not, dropping it completely. If they still want to do 1 or 2 trip spots or whatever, that's fine. But it cannot be like this. You cannot have him in the ring. Maybe they just thought that was the only way the crowd would buy, Naito losing here. But the problem was it didn't work for the story they had told. Jay White beat this guy twice, and the G1, I mean, he basically beat him clean. I don't even remember Gato being involved at all, really, especially down the stretch. And Kobe, like we said, Gato maybe got involved a little bit, but it doesn't make any sense that he would need Gato in the ring, with a fucking chair to beat Naito when he already beat him twice. So that part of it I didn't like, and that would be a problem I had. So hopefully,
what I'm hoping for is that maybe, and I doubt it will happen, but I hope they just do a gigantic reset at New Year's Dash where they just blow up all of the factions. And I do mean all of them, even though I doubt that they would disband Bullet Club. But I think it's way overdue. Literally every faction, even LIJ, and I love them. But how many years have they been around now? I think it's about time to just get rid of all of them and just do a complete reset on that.
They would never. I mean, LIJ makes no sense to break up. They sell way too much merch for one, and that's the other problem. Why I think they've resisted breaking Chaos up too, because even Chaos, who barely exists at this point as a separate entity from Hontai, I mean, they still sell way more merchandise than you think they do, probably. So I think that's probably the issue. But I don't think LIJ is fine. I think Suzuki-gun's fine, but I would rework Chaos, Bullet Club, Hontai, probably. Chaos, those are the ones that I think are very stale. I think you could make a new unit out of them. I think, especially if you bring in people back from Excursion / bring in new people. But yeah, those are the ones I think are really, really stale. I think LIJ and Suzuki-gun are fine, but that's my personal opinion on the unit shuffle. Kind of a tangent, though. But yeah, so to wrap up the double gold stuff, I guess, for here, Chris, I guess start with you. Naito Okada tomorrow. Paul kind of talked about he's expecting it to be a really good match. I said I was expecting it to be a really good match. I guess your expectations on the match quality, and do you think, are you pretty sure it's Naito winning, or do you think there's any chance Gato's trolling Naito fans again tomorrow?
Oh, I hate to think of it. I think the match will be good, but I think I'm probably, my match of the weekend is probably going to end up being, it would be hard for me to believe it's not Okada Ibushi. I had a blast with that match. So, with that said, these guys are going to deliver. There's no doubt about that. I know I'm going to go back and watch all their previous matches today just to get ready for callbacks and things I don't remember about them because I haven't watched them in a while. So, and To be honest, at this point, I do. I think we're doing the LIJ. Everyone's got a belt roll call at the end, and I think it's going to be really awesome.
Yeah, I just don't see any way they're not doing something like that. I guess, Tyler, same question. Do you have expectations for the match, and do you think there's any chance Naito doesn't win?
I think there is a chance Naito doesn't win, and something that I know has been mentioned before, there hasn't been a winner that wasn't Okada or Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom since Wrestle Kingdom 4 10 years ago when it was Nakamura. So just with that stat and how they keep going back to the well of their two aces, there's always going to be, at least in my mind, that seed of doubt. And then at the end of the day, one thing I'm really looking forward to is one thing that really killed Naito in that first match was he went for that Phoenixplex, or sorry, not the Phoenixplex, the Stardust Press, and then he went for that last Destino, and those two elements, I'm wondering how they're going to call those back, and I keep getting reminded of when The Rock and John Cena had their feud, and Cena lost the first match because he went for the people's elbow, but then he tried to do it again, but caught himself. And I wonder if Naito kind of utilizes that storyline element in tomorrow night's match, and that's something I'm really looking forward to seeing. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Naito. You can't do what Gato did 2 years ago, which ended up being really smart long term, and then build Naito back up for this exact moment, and then just crush the fans and just give Naito the moment. You don't have to give him this massive run, but you got to pay the storyline off.
Yeah. So I realize now that the people listening back when I combine it afterwards are already going to know what happened, but I guess this is a little speculation. You can find it funny how sure we were.
You can dunk on it, so
right, like how sure we all were that Naito was winning, except for Tyler, I guess, and then fucking Okada wins. But that'll be funny, I guess. Anyway, so,
and we have the millions watching live right now, so
yeah, the millions. But yeah, so that's the Naito, the Double Gold Dash talk, and then we'll see for tomorrow. We didn't mention, by the way, the losers match is Ibushi and Jay White now, the rematch of the G1 final, which doesn't surprise me. I kind of always thought it was going to be these two matches. I mean, I'll tell you the reason why I thought for sure Okada was winning the main, other than the Naito Okada story paying off. It just felt like doing Jay White. Like, if they didn't have that losers match, it would be less obvious. But Jay White Okada, like, that's going to be like a feud probably for the next decade for that company. I mean, they're both, whether you like them both or not, they're both very young. You know, like 32 and 26 or whatever the hell 27, whatever Jay White is. So, I don't know. It just felt like they would not put that match. I mean, it went from Wrestle Kingdom to MSG main event to like losers match. Even at Wrestle Kingdom, I just thought losers match would not be a good spot to run that back. I think they're saving that either for like the G1 this year, or even like for like some other major match. So it felt like too soon to go back to that. So that was Ibushi White. You can easily go back to. I don't think anyone's gonna. It doesn't really matter.
That's a good point, because last year's White Okada match had nothing really attached to it either. So that would have been weird for them to go back to it again with no stakes or stipulations.
Yeah. So here in this case, we have Ibushi White, and did they ever officially? You might know, Chris. Did they ever officially say this is the number one contender match? I think they kind of did, right? Like in some official channel.
They in all the official channels, they've said that this will be a primary contributor to who gets the first title shot. They haven't called it a number one contenders match, which leads me to believe like they're going to put someone kind of in that position, but they might have to win another match to get through. That seems to be the way they're playing this, and I don't know when that match would happen unless it's New Year Dash, but they haven't said number one contenders match.
Okay, so that's interesting. So let's assume, I guess, for thought exercise here, and again, we're predicting something the podcast listeners will already know, so I'll try to keep it short. But let's assume that it is a number one contender match. I think Jay is winning because next month just feels way too soon to do Naito Ibushi. Does anyone disagree with me? Does anyone think Kota's winning?
I mean, I agree with you, but then again, like, why do like a rematch at like New Beginning, like where Naito defends against the guy he just beat at Wrestle Kingdom? That feels weird as well, and like a fairly cold match as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think either way it's gonna feel weird, but the Naito White thing, at least you're not burning off like a major match. But I don't know.
I think they could go to Ibushi. I think they could go to Ibushi Naito again at that point for the IWGP. I think that would probably be the best match for them to run back, since they did it a bunch at the first half of this year.
Yeah.
And I think that if that's the blow off, I think that also can create some speculation that maybe Naito doesn't hold that belt forever. Maybe it is a quick run, and I think Ibushi's the guy that you think is due for that title run, as well as Naito. Like, those are the two guys that I think are primed for it right now.
Yeah, and that is a good
I mean,
point.
unless Naito is winning and then they do Okada versus White at New Beginning.
The only thing I want to say about Naito Ibushi, it would invite speculation that Naito, is going to lose the belt in a month. So I guess that's good to have a title match where you feel like the other guy could win. But if you assume Naito isn't going to lose the belt in a month, is that not, that kind of feels like too many big losses for Kota in a row. That's my problem with it. Like, he blows it against Okada on 1-4, and then he just loses to Naito next month again. It just feels a little too much for him. I don't know, Chris, do you disagree?
Yes, I don't know. I mean, to me, they've got to start getting some other people into this picture, and I don't know how they can do that before New Beginning. So, I mean, they've hot-shotted people before in that way, but I still think that one of these guys is going to get the title shot back at New Beginning.
See, now what you say is interesting about getting new people. And I think one of the strongest aspects of a Naito title reign right now is, to me, he has like 1 million fresh opponents potentially.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, outside of these four.
Right. So I think that's why I would be really surprised if we lose Dakota next month, because if you look at it from the perspective of Naito, like, I think he just has so many opponents that I think, and I'm not saying he has to hold the title all year, but I think he easily has enough opponents to get through Dominion. Or to get
absolutely. So I'm not saying that Naito's included in that, like, let's get new guys in here. I think Naito could have a really great run against all sorts of fresh competitors, including some guys that are in LIJ with him. Yeah. I think they could build some really interesting stories that way too. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough to book 30 days out.
Yeah.
When you've got all four of your guys already involved in the title picture right now. There's no kind of incumbent that makes any sense that they haven't already run back.
So I'm sure we'll talk about this tomorrow too, once we know for sure who won the top two matches. But I will give you one other reason right now why I think Naito's holding at least through like April, and this is a good transition to the next match we have to talk about. 42 minutes in here. It's been a long time on these matches, so I think like Naito and Hiromu is definitely the anniversary show main event, the heavyweight champion versus the junior champion, and I just think that's probably like one of the first things they penciled in for this Naito reign. So, I think that's the traditional heavyweight versus junior champion main event they do at the anniversary show many years. So I think that just makes way too much sense to not do that, first time ever match. But I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but.
Oh, I think you're right, John. And I think one element we're forgetting about the New Beginning title defense is it's probably going to end up being in Osaka-jo Hall, because they're running that instead of the Edion Arena. And I wonder who they might put in that spot, just because you have a 12,000 seat building to fill rather than something a little smaller like 8.
Right. So I guess we'll see.
And I do agree that Naito will hold the title until Dominion, because I don't know if that's really been a thing, but I think they kind of teased it that Dominion might be like in the Dome in Osaka this year, and you need like a really big match to like fill that. And I think like the match where Naito might potentially lose the belt to Ibushi might be at Dominion there.
Yeah. So there you go. That's all that talk. So now we can transition to the junior title match, which, as we just mentioned, obviously Hiromu is the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. He beat Will Ospreay in a really incredible match. I couldn't quite go the full 5 just because like some of the Ospreay neck offense stuff kind of dragged for me, even though it totally made sense for the story they told. But like to me, full 5, you have to like love almost every single second of a match, and there was a little bit that dragged, but like it was still 4 3/4, like just an absolutely incredible match. There were so many sequences in this match where like with two guys who were nowhere near as smooth, and even with Will sometimes with a opponent that can't play into what Will does well and what Will doesn't do well, which I think there's a lot there in both aspects. I think there were a couple sequences that could have looked really fucking corny, but because these two are so good and so good together as opponents, it ended up looking fantastic. I'm thinking specifically of that like crazy like dive in and out of the ring spot where like Hiromu like counters a dive into a German and Will flips and lands on his feet and like jumps back in the ring, and it goes on and on and on. Like that could have looked really stupid with two worse wrestlers, but it looked they pulled it off absolutely perfectly, and it looked amazing. And again, this is another one where I would have said going in that Ospreay was losing for sure, but first of all because they did such a great job of the build of on those two Corkin shows of putting in my head like maybe they just fucking tell the story that like Hiromu came back too soon and just wasn't quite ready to beat Will here, and maybe he has to come back and beat him later after winning Best of Super Junior or something. I mean, they got me on that, like especially that Oz Cutter. I even though I should have known in my brain that he would have to hit the Stormbreaker to win, like I almost had a heart attack. I really thought Hiromu was getting pinned there. But yeah, and then Will obviously comes back, takes the time bomb and kicks out, and then we get a brand new finisher that looks sort of like a wrist. Is it like a wrist clutch like time bomb sort of, or like I don't know what to call it. It was very weird, but it looked awesome. It looked like a sick neck bump as you'd expect from a Hiromu finisher. So yeah, this was incredible. 4 3/4, definitely a match of the night for me, and absolutely lived up to the considerable hype. What did you think of this one, Chris?
I liked it, but I have watched a lot of Ospreay's 2019 matches when I was looking at my top 10 of the year, and I don't think this lived up to Shingo. So like that's kind of where I'm comparing it. It's like that's the level I wanted this to get to, and it never got there for me.
Oh.
I think it was a great match, but I wanted it. I guess I wanted another 5 minutes on it, to be honest. And but I'm a sucker for the long stuff. I'm a sucker for these guys getting exhausted and tired and like we saw in the main event. So to go 25 is solid and strong, and I think it was crisp and smooth and good. And they worked the neck of Hiromu, and they got some cool, really awesome, good new spots in. But I wanted that exhaustion factor to play in, and I just didn't. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that like really intense build in that last couple of minutes.
That's interesting. I didn't expect that because I feel like the social media and everything, the Slack and everything was like just so positive. I thought people were gonna crucify me for not going 5, but yeah, that's interesting. They didn't have it that high. I like this better than Ospreay Shingo, but I was at 4.5. I guess I was one of the lower ones on Ospreay Shingo. What did you?
Yeah,
think?
Ospreay Shingo like hit me in the soul. So
yeah.
I'm probably if I was doing stars, I'd probably be the high man on that anywhere I go, and that's a match that people enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had it 5, and it ran away with the poll that we did in the ebook for Match of the Year. So most people have it higher than I did, but which is saying something for a match I still went 4.5 stars on. Tyler, what did you think of Ospreay and Hiromu?
I thought this was an absolutely fantastic match. I went the full 5 on it. I really liked the very beginning when the bell rang and at the first cork and the road to, they just went at each other for about 2 minutes. And at the very beginning, Hiromu ran at Ospreay like he was going to jump him, and then they kind of just settled into their match. And Will did a fantastic job. I know it kind of bothered you, John, all the neck stuff really building up to that hidden blade where it just looked like he murdered Hiromu, which I thought was one of the best spots I've seen in quite a while. I'm just a sucker for the hidden blade. It's a fantastic move. And just what was really interesting is when he went for the Stormbreaker. I don't know what Ospreay was trying to do. He got him in the Stormbreaker, and then he looked like he was going for like the Gory Special, and then I've never seen him do that. And then Hiromu hit that Standing Sunset flip bomb, and that was really weird. But overall, these guys just had a fantastic match. They were just going back and forth, beating the piss out of each other. And it all made sense. It wasn't just two guys doing moves. They were just they built a story around the neck, and Hiromu trying to figure himself out still while he's in the midst of his comeback. And I really liked Hiromu's new finish. It kind of looked like a combination of like Time Bomb and then like the Bastard Driver, where it just drops him right on the back of the neck. And I thought that was fantastic.
I will say, I hope they keep it as like an ultimate finisher. I hope he doesn't start doing it in every match, because that's a pretty bad bump to take in every goddamn match Hiromu wins.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they used the Tokyo Dome to debut a new finisher because of that exact fact. Like we talked about it with Okada and Ibushi. Like, you don't want your ace taking all these crazy neck bumps. But when you get to the Tokyo Dome, it's your absolute biggest show of the year, and you got to deliver. You're going to do more than you normally would. Mm-hmm. And debuting a finisher that you're not going to use consistently, like, to me, that's a little bit of a questionable decision if that ends up being the case. Like, that's something you maybe want to build up something like, hey, we're going to keep using the Time Bomb, and then we're going to use this ultra finisher in order to finish guy off. So it remains to be seen how they're going to utilize it, but I'm just glad Hiromu's back. He's still fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted it during the match, but I think he was, like, when he went down injured, I thought he was the best wrestler in the world, and I didn't really think it was close. Like, I didn't think anyone else was really close to his level, but in, like, June 2018. So this was obviously a very strong first performance to show that he can get right back on that level. I mean, I think he's going to have an incredible Juju title reign. He's got matches set up for Desperado, with Ryu Lee now, the ex-Dragon Lee, probably some under-the-radar ones with like Taiji Ishimori, because from that incredible Best of Super Junior final, that was like my actual match of the year last year. And now 2 years ago, I guess, 2018. And on top of that, like I just said, I think he's going to be set up for a really incredible match with Naito at the anniversary show that should be just really emotional on top of being a really incredible first-time match. So, Paul, what did you think of Ospreay and Hiromu?
Yeah, to me, that was easily the match of the night. I mentioned before where with Okada and Ibushi, I was like jumping up and down for the finish. For this match, I was legitimately, for the last 5 minutes, just pacing up and down my living room, just going crazy for everything. And I just loved the match. This was exactly what I wanted out of both men. And this is probably, like, it's easily the match of the night, I said before. And it's probably going to be the front runner for match of the year for me for a good while as well. I mean, obviously, now that Hiromu has the title, like, he's probably going to defend the title against Dragon Lee at some point, and that's probably going to be a match that potentially could rival this. And then obviously we still have Champion Carnival coming up and G1 and everything. But still, like, there has to be like a special match for me that it really has to be able to beat this match. So Ospreay just continues on strong as he did in the last year as well. And maybe on the thing that Tyler said on debuting a new finisher in the Dome, is normally I would agree with it, especially if it kind of isn't clear that it is going to be the finish, and then the finish afterwards, like the ending of the match, can feel a little bit flat. But I think in this case, I would disagree with it because it was so obvious to me, and I think everyone in the crowd as well, that this was the finish. Like, everyone just looked at that move that Hiromu hit on Ospreay there, and everyone was immediately clear, like, that's the end of the match, and he's not kicking out from that. So that's why I think it actually was kind of a good idea to debut it here, to really properly establish it as, like, this is like Hiromu's, like, this is his Burning Hammer, this is his big match finish. He won't break it out every time, but if he does, the other guy's not kicking out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's a great place to debut a move like that. I just hope that it really is going to be like his Burning Hammer that he only uses occasionally. I don't want it to be like his, I think it's just too sick of a move for him to just like replace the Time Bomb with this move as like a daily finisher. So I guess we'll see. But yes,
he had teased in something I read that he had something new to show everyone too.
Yeah.
So I think anyone who was really plugged in probably had a thought that he was going to bust something else out to take Ospreay out.
Yeah, I guess we've forgotten about the submission hold thing. He didn't really even tease it, which I was a little surprised by. Maybe he just isn't into the triangle choke anymore. Okay, so we can move down then to the IWGP U.S. Heavyweight title, the Texas Death Match with Archer and Moxley. I thought this was really quite good. There's a couple things I took a little issue with, like, they did a few too many of the standing 10 counts for me. The standing 10 counts, like the Ospreay. Not the Ospreay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought from a pop-up. They did a few too many of the standing 10 counts, like the WWE Last Man Standing matches. I thought they were doing a good job avoiding them at first, but there were a few too many down the stretch. And there were parts that were a little sloppy, like Archer falling off the top rope, which I don't think was intentional. Although they covered for it really well. Moxley, like, immediately swinging the kendo stick, so that's good. But there were a few other sloppy moments. I didn't really like Archer's selling, especially not when Moxley went for that cross-arm breaker, which was a really cool moment. Fucking Dean Ambrose doing a cross-arm breaker in the middle of the Tokyo Dome. But I wish Archer had sold it a little better, which took it down a little bit. But, these are like my complaints, whereas the rest of the match was just like a ton of sick spots, a really cool brawl, just like beating the piss out of each other. The big spots were all really cool looking and didn't take too long to set up, which can always be a problem in these type of like hardcore matches. And the finisher looked, the finish with the double RDT through the two tables, that was really sick. Archer trying to murder him with a plastic bag was like just one of those really, really like one of the spots that's simultaneously funny but also somehow really cool. So that really worked for me. And I went 4 stars flat on it by the end. A pretty awesome match with a few, I think, major flaws, but still definitely delivered. What do you think of the U.S. title match, Chris?
As this type of match goes, like I guess really a last man standing, like no one was really trying to submit anyone. This is up there for me. I think you're right. Like they did a lot of the couple of standing 10 counts and everyone gets up at 9 and blah, 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 blah. It's the old trope of this style of match. But when it comes down to it, like you're right, like the spots didn't take forever to set up. They were natural. It was all like stuff that would be around the ring. And, Moxley came out and just started pulling chairs out from under the ring. And like, that's like normal stuff. It's not like a, death match arts and crafts thing. So like as this type of match goes, I think they hit the nail right on the head. It got just the right amount of time. It went a little less than 15, I think. And Archer was brilliant in this match. I think Archer and his kind of ability to be the big guy, but also be someone that people are kind of rooting for. I think that's like a really interesting nuance with a guy that is really just ascending up into that kind of role of working by himself. So I liked it. I think I tweeted or I put in the chat something about the fact that I think that this is the match that Moxley wanted to have with Kenny. This is the type of like brutal hardcore match that Moxley wants to have, not these like super laid out, big arduous spots. So I think this was right up his alley, and I think Archer joined him on that trip really well.
I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely thought it was funny that Archer had a better match with Moxley than Kenny. I mean, I liked the Kenny Moxley match, but I was like 3 3/4 on that, so I went a 1/4 star higher here. So Lance Archer better than Kenny Omega, confirmed.
Part of it's probably just that the Kenny match went forever, and this got the right amount of time.
Yeah.
And it was placed well on the card. Actually, I would have liked this, because you had a couple of like plotters throughout the card. So you had the Jay White Naito match that was just gonna be a different pace, and you had this match. And I think, if you're looking at the card, to put Will and Hiromu between those two matches is good, but it did detract, I think, from the Naito White piece. So it was a matter of like which match you thought could sustain it, because I don't think you could put those two matches back to back, the White Naito and Moxley Archer.
Right. What did you think, Tyler? Tyler? Oh, did we lose Tyler? Okay. I see he has like a big red. Okay, I think he's back. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm back. I loved this match. I had it at 4.5, and what was really nice about this is I kind of have. I don't like last man standing matches for the most part. I really liked the one that Triple H and Shawn Michaels had at the Royal Rumble back in like 2004, because they were just in the midst of a blood feud, and I thought it worked really well. But this. Having that element in it, it never felt like it was super laid out. It felt like a good match that involved weapons rather than a weapons match that involved wrestling. And they did a really good job in not contriving spots. Everything flowed really well. They even covered for that botch, as you mentioned earlier, John. And it was really cool at the end where Death Rider, they got that really good shot at the very end where Archer's trying to get up, and there's the accidental blood on his arm. For the flaws that we saw tonight with the camera work, where they completely missed Okada's new Trunks reveal during the main event, and a couple other instances, like that shot was the epitome of what kind of match they had. It was just brutal. They beat the crap out of each other, and for a match that really could have went anywhere from like low 2s to where I had it at 4.5, I really thought it delivered, and these guys worked very hard to deliver a match that they wanted to. And Jon Moxley living out his wrestling nerd fantasies by winning a title match in the Tokyo Dome, I thought was a really cool moment, considering he was doing clown shit just a few months ago.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Paul, what did you think of the U.S. Heavyweight Championship?
So I guess I'm going to be the dissenting opinion on this. This didn't work for me at all, and I guess it's just that I just don't like last man standing matches at all. And I suppose if this one didn't work for me, then none of them will work for me. I just felt that the standing 10 count just took me out of the match pretty much every single time. I think there was literally only one that worked for me, which was when Moxley collapsed back to the mat at like 8, and then men just barely managed to get up at 10. And I think that was also the one that got like the biggest reaction from the crowd. And I think it's just that with both kind of setting up the spots for kind of the crazy bumps through the chairs and through the tables and everything, that already kind of breaks the flow of the match. And if you combine that with the standing 10 counts as well, which break the flow of the match as well, I think that was just a little bit too much for me. There was just too much downtime where nothing was really happening, so to say. And I liked the match well enough, like whenever they were just like kind of in there wrestling and kind of both men. I really liked both men in 2019 and was actually all ready to like get on here and to kind of eat crow after I buried Lance Archer after he won against Will Ospreay in the New Japan Cup, and I kind of buried him in my review on Voices of Wrestling. And like I said, both men had like really tremendous 2019 overall, but this match just didn't work for me at all. And maybe I hope that, but I'm sure that both men will have like better matches down the line. Yeah. I think it would have just worked better as a just straight up hardcore match. And I think in that case, I actually would have liked the match.
Okay, so let's blow through the remaining 4 matches because I'm very tired all of a sudden. I don't think we've covered the stuff people actually care about. So let's go through the IWGP tag team titles. I mean, I didn't really like this that much. I saw some people thought it was a little bit better, but I was like 2 3/4 on it by the end. It just kind of landed for me where a lot of GOD matches landed. It was good by the end, but not really like the best match ever before that. I don't know. Any thoughts on this real quick, Chris?
I like that they continued the trend of flipping the tag titles on Wrestle Kingdom. I think that Juice and Finlay will bring a little bit of a different energy to the tag team championships. But as the match in ring goes, I liked the last 2 matches of World Tag Leagues significantly more than this match.
Anything to add, Tyler?
I went 3 1/4 on it. Everything was fine, but GOD is just boring. They don't really bring anything to the table. It just is what it is. I really like that Juice and Finlay have brought some new life to the pretty much a dead tag division, and maybe we can see Zach and Taichi, Dangerous Techers, challenge them and maybe try and build something there. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Juice's new look. Like, he looked like one of the Village People, and that handlebar mustache was something, and it's just being Juice, and that's it. It just makes him great. He's just himself, and he gives 0 fucks.
Yeah. What do you think, Paul, of the tag team championship of the world?
Yeah, it was a GOD match, just like every other GOD match, I suppose. I'm happy that Finn just won the titles, and finally maybe we'll get like some new stuff, some new challenges as well, and maybe for once finally we'll get like a actually interesting tag division in heavyweight tag division in New Japan. One thing I was really happy about was David Finlay getting the pin as well at Wrestle Kingdom. I think that was like easily his biggest win, and I think he was the one that got the pin in World Tag League as well, right? So it seems like they're really trying to elevate him, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, so it makes. I mean, I think he's definitely deserved it. So I'm happy for him too. So that before we move on to the other undercard matches, I guess really quickly for tomorrow, does anyone think Juice is going to beat Moxley, or are we getting Juice 2 belts? Because I figured he was until they won that tag title match, and now it just feels weird that Naito probably is going to close the show with this big hyped up 2 belt thing, and Juice Robinson is just also going to be a double champion. But I assume that's what's going to happen.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but if they've got more dates with Moxley, everyone assumes that this U.S. title's got to come back to America for the New Japan of America shows. But I think with Juice and Finlay have a big role in the press for that. So I'm assuming that they're on that first tour. So I mean, potentially they could just be really leaning on the tag team champions. So if they've got another date or 2 already kind of plotted out with Moxley. It wouldn't surprise me if he holds on to it and looks strong.
What I'm actually curious about is, like, obviously you probably wouldn't need the title itself, because I think the shows they announced for like the earlier part of the year are generally, I think, smaller shows, so I think they should be fine filling those buildings. But weren't there reports that like Moxley has an out clause at AEW in the summer? So I'm curious, like, if he like retains the title and then maybe keeps holding it for a little while longer, where if he has an out clause and maybe he's already made up his mind that he's going to leave, then I think that would be like the perfect person to like build New Japan of America around.
Yeah.
I'm also really intrigued if, like, obviously we keep hearing rumors, especially since Dave Meltzer nonstop brings it up, if there ends up being a partnership with AEW and New Japan, and if that ends up being the case, with if Moxley holds his title after tomorrow, do they allow him to work shows in the U.S. and how that might end up working? So if there ends up being a partnership, I think that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out as well.
I mean, I think that's the only real chance there is a partnership, honestly, is if AEW backs off that, demand not to have any of their wrestlers appear on New Japan of America shows, because I don't see what... I mean, look, this show, we didn't even mention it, did 40,000 plus. It did a bigger number than last year did, and, obviously this year has 2 domes. So, they clearly don't need any of these people, especially not the elite folks in Japan. Maybe it would be nice to have, all the AEW folks in America, and that would, I'm sure, help them draw. But, I think that's really the major thing of value, honestly, as far as any negotiation goes. But I still wouldn't hold my breath either way. Okay, the 2 8-man tags, I can sum these up in 2 seconds. The Bullet Club versus Chaos 8-man I thought was pretty bad. I only went 2 stars on it. It just was absolutely nothing. The Suzuki-gun LIJ tag I liked a lot more. There was like a really, really awesome Shingo Taichi exchange, which was really, really fun and was about the big thing that made that match worthwhile. So I went like 3 1/4. It was a good little match, but I definitely, don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't regret watching that match, whereas I definitely did regret watching the Bullet Club versus Chaos 8-man. Do you have any thoughts?
Let's not understate Yoshihashi's first Tokyo Dome victory that happened on accident.
That's true.
He is now 1-8.
Yeah.
He is off the schneid, and I think this will propel Yoshihashi to more average things.
I think, by the way, we just had trouble on the live stream, so I'm sorry if you're listening and we just cut out for a second there, but hopefully you're still with us. Of course, it won't matter for people listening back to the podcast. It'll all be uninterrupted, thankfully. But yeah, if you're listening to the live stream now still, I apologize for that little interruption there. But yeah, it just one 8-man tag that was good and one that was bad. Pretty much all there is to say, I think. And yes, congratulations to Yoshihashi in his first Tokyo Dome victory. It was so bizarre to see him pop up at 9th in that top 10 in that ebook. It was really something. But I guess it is something. It just kind of happens sometimes, I guess. Tyler, do you want anything to say about these 2 8-mans?
They existed. They're fine. I think there's a couple really cool points that I wanted to mention. Chase Owens finally got on to the main card of Wrestle Kingdom, and he definitely earned that. I loved the spot in the Bullet Club tag with Ishii and Fale, where Ishii got to deliver the brainbuster to Fale. I thought that was really cool. And then at the end of the LIJ Suzuki-gun tag, you had like some chatter between the Suzuki-gun and LIJ guys, but Suzuki just disappeared. They didn't show him on camera. He wasn't with his faction mates. He was just gone. And in the post-match presser, apparently Suzuki wasn't with Despy's DSJ or Taichi. So that, with all the rumors of Suzuki going to Noah, that's going to be something to definitely monitor tomorrow and on Monday at New Year's Dash.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess, well, again, if you're listening back to the episode, you might know how that went ahead of us. It's the magic of recording these both live. Anything to add on these two stupid tags, Paul?
No, but if Suzuki goes to Noah, then I hope he teams up with Hideki Suzuki as the Suzuki brothers.
Okay, sure. The opener of the main card, the Liger 8-man, this was, I thought, quite a bit better than some... I don't know if I could say how I was expecting. I thought this was going to be good from the jump. I saw some folks basically thinking this was going to be like really, really rough, and I was like, I don't know, I never got it, because like all these people are still active. They definitely could go to varying degrees, but there were enough people in there that could still go that I thought the match was always going to be fine, and it was a good match. I went 3.5 stars, It was better than either one of these other 8-man tags, but I had a great deal of fun with it. There was a moment where Fujinami tagged in and only was in there for like half a second, but just went through all of his, little technical wrestling spots, and I was marking out. So that was really fun. Great Sasuke, of all people, try to send Tom Bomb off the top rope because that man does not care how old he is. He's just nuts. So yeah, I don't know. I want to give a big boo to all the people who acted like these folks were all going to die in there. I thought they did not embarrass themselves. I thought they looked great. So, anything that you want to add about this one, Chris?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I liked all the little spots. It was well laid out, and they got in, got out, and did their stuff. And it was all about Liger, and that was the point. So I loved it. I had a great time with it. It was actually a really good opener. If they had a way of building a match like this every year that would be interesting and fun like this, I would be all about it.
Tyler, anything you want to add here?
The biggest takeaway I got from this match was that Tiger Mask looked the best out of anybody. Like the dive that he did off the top rope onto the floor, he looked like he was about 15 years younger, and he just looked really good, and I was really impressed by that. And of course, Liger is the least selfish wrestler probably of all time.
Yeah,
and
he's like, I'm going
surprised.
out. I want to get pinned by Taguchi. Like, okay.
I'm surprised it was Taguchi.
Yeah.
Like, it would make more sense if he would have picked a younger junior, but obviously that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
I thought he would get pinned by Sano.
Yeah. Well, I guess he figured give it to a roster member at least.
Yeah.
Paul, anything you want to add about the Liger tag?
Yeah, so anyone actually in that match, anyone that was actually scared that any of the men in this match would actually get hurt, clearly doesn't watch enough like Japanese indies or Japanese wrestling outside of New Japan. Because I have seen in his late 70s Dory Funk Jr. doing spinning toe holds in about, I think, 1 meter an hour speed. And so this was clearly not on that level. So I think everyone did well, and I think it was just a nice nostalgia trip. It was exactly what this match was supposed to be, and I've got no complaints. And then obviously the big Goodbye Liger match is the match tomorrow where he really properly passed the torch to the next generation.
Yep. So that's and tomorrow obviously we haven't actually said the match, but it's Liger and Naoki Sano against Ryu Lee and Hiromu. So that'll be interesting. I assume either Hiromu or Ryu Lee is gonna get the pin, but if Liger could if someone could take a brick and hit Liger in the head and then drag Liger on top of their body just so you could get a fucking pinfall, that would have been cool. But it wasn't gonna happen because that was the only way you could get Liger to actually pin somebody. He just would never do it otherwise. And the two dark matches, I don't know if there's much to say about them. They existed. Anyone absolutely got to throw some hot takes in there about those two dark matches?
I mean, Toa Hanari got the pin, so he's already doing better this year than last.
That's true.
I know
that's a proper hot take, but Carl Fredericks has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Oh, hot take there.
Speaking of Fredericks, Charlton made a point that the first match of the 2010s had Okada in it, and then the first match of the 2020s had Carl Fredericks in it. So we've all been able to telegraph that they love Carl Fredericks and they see a huge future for him, but this just proves that point even more.
Yeah. All right, folks. Let's wrap it up there. I'm very tired. we're going to come back tomorrow. If you listened all the way through, first of all, thank you. If you listened live all the way through, I really appreciate it. We had people jumping in and out, but some of you did stay all the way to the end, so thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with our Wrestle Kingdom 14 Night 2 reaction. Me, Paul, and Chris are going to be back tomorrow, and then Gerard is tagging in for Tyler. So Gerard, another VOW contributor. So that's what's going on there. I'm not going to do... Well, actually, Tyler, go ahead and do plugs because you're not going to be back tomorrow. So go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate that, John. I not only contribute for Voices of Wrestling, but I do have my own football website called Coast to Coast Scouting at ccscouting.com. I just released a 2-round mock draft, and we just got credentialed to cover the Senior Bowl for NFL draft prospects. So give us a look if you're a football fan, and we have a lot of fun with it, and it's definitely some good stuff.
All right, and Chris and Paul, so to be clear, because you're coming on tomorrow, you'll plug your stuff at the end.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
just one quick thing, John, before we sign off.
Yeah.
It's just want to give one quick shout out to Damon Abraham from the Super J Cast of managing to fall asleep during the dome. He drank too many strong zeros.
He probably didn't want people to know that.
I'm pretty sure Joel put that
Joel
on Twitter,
put it. Yeah,
so
Joel,
I think everyone knows.
Joel put it in the chat. So, like at that point, you can't really claim, the privacy. Like he said right there, Joel. Damon fell asleep and dropped his beer, and now my bag smells like beer. Bad Damon. That's right there in the chat. So there you go. It's not like the YouTube chat, I mean. But yeah, so we'll all be back tomorrow, and then obviously it'll be combined into one. So if you're listening to the podcast through the magic of audio, it'll be Night 2 coming up in just a second. If you're listening live, thank you again for joining us, and we hope you'll come back to the same exact place tomorrow for our Night 2 instant reaction, where hopefully I will be jubilant having just seen Naito win the double titles, or I will be despondent having just seen Okada hit another goddamn Rainmaker. So, thank you again for listening, and see you tomorrow for the Night 2 live stream. Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. I'm saying this really in the middle of the episode if you're listening back via podcast. If you're listening live, welcome to day 2 of our Wrestle Kingdom 14 instant reaction stream. Thank you for joining us here at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to try to get through this because I'm honestly even more exhausted than I was yesterday. But, physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, just all kinds of exhausted. But thank you if you're listening live. There is a live chat, same as yesterday. If you want to share anything, any feedback, whatever, we might read it on the air. So that's a cool feature of being live on YouTube. But definitely check that out. One little note, I said yesterday, or at the end of the same episode, if you're listening back, that Paul would be tagging out. Paul actually couldn't join us today, so Tyler came back instead. So Tyler, who plugged all his stuff, is still here anyway. So welcome back, Tyler.
Thanks, John. It's good to be back.
And also back again is Chris Samsa.
Hello.
And then tagging in is Gerard Di Trolio, also from Voices of Wrestling.
This is one of the most thrilling nights of my life.
It was so good. I mean, I can't really... I don't know. I can't really beat around the... I know some people are really mad about the Kenta thing, I guess. So if you are, I don't want to take that away. I get why some Naito fans will be really mad, but I can't imagine being that angry after witnessing that because he didn't get to say Day Upon. I mean, I get it, but also I don't get it, I guess. It's the best I can say. I'm still on such a cloud nine that that Kenta attack was just I mean, I would say right now, I totally get why they did that. I said it in the Voice of Wrestling Slack pretty much immediately. I think they are afraid that Naito's hardcore fans who have been waiting for this moment, literally for at least 2 years, some of them for 3.5 years. I think there's probably a fear that if you give him, you finally give him that moment after stringing us. I mean, I consider myself a Naito fan, stringing us along, day and day and day and day out, day in and day out. That when you finally deliver that and they finally give you that moment, is that the moment where a bunch of these fans are just well, I finally saw Naito get his moment. I don't really need to keep watching at this point. So they wanted to have you go off, I guess, with that heat, you're pissed off that Kenta laid him out before he could finish the roll call and you want to see him get his revenge or whatever. I think they just didn't want to take any chances and wanted to make sure people had a hook to come back. So I get it, but I'm not really, I don't know, Kenta giving him a go to sleep, I can't really muster up a lot of outrage after what I just witnessed. Mato, Gerard, you're also a big Naito fan. Did you feel any differently? Did that really bother you at the end?
No, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, although as soon as Sonata lost, I thought the ending was going to be a little different than I expected because I think a lot of us expected the full gold roll call, but that didn't happen. So, however, despite that, I thought they covered it pretty well, though, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I get why they did it. I'm not really. I don't really have any great outrage about it. So I guess I should have had somebody here who was really upset about it. But I just don't. I don't have any anger about it really. That's pretty much all I can say about that. As far as the match, I mean, that was an absolutely incredible match. I think the best of the entire weekend. I recognize I am very biased, but I mean that was one of those matches when the moment it was over, I had zero doubt that was a 5-star match, and I think that was the best one the two of them ever did. I think it's up there for Naito's all-time best and Okada's all-time best, and just incredible match. Built incredibly well, pretty much from start to finish, and I don't know. I don't really even know what the flaws with it would be. I mean, they didn't blow anything. It was paced just incredibly well. I'm going to go through all of my favorite spots in it because, I think that it deserves that. And, I think my voice is even a little gone just from these 2 days. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it really was just an incredible, incredible match. And I'm probably going to use that word a lot, but even though I think I intellectually knew that Naito had to win this, they got me several times, and they really got that seed of doubt planted really, really early. And, by the end of it, I really was on the edge of my seat, and I was, jumping up and down like an idiot at 5 a.m.
I thought tonight was actually a better seed of doubt than last night in terms of, is Okada going to win? And I thought actually Ibushi was going to win a lot more than he ended up doing with some of those spots too.
Yeah, I mean the seed of doubt was way bigger tonight than last night. I mean there was no moment during that Naito White match where I ever thought Naito was going to lose that match. So, and I think part of that's also just because I could see in my head I could see Naito losing on night 2, but I didn't see any way they would just job him to Jay White a third straight time. But part of it is also just the way the matches were structured. Just Jay White took so much of that match that Naito. I just think if Naito had lost that, he would have looked like the world's biggest jobber. Whereas tonight, I mean, this was structured much more back and forth, and also like Naito even got the better of Okada a lot. And I think it's because the story they were trying to tell, which we'll go, I think we'll go over. They were not afraid to have Naito just look like the better man a lot of the stretch. So in other words, if they had had Okada win, the match probably would have been structured in a pretty similar way. So because Naito got so much offense along the way. Chris, let's get you in here. What did you think? Like, I guess macro thoughts on the match. I don't know if you were 5 stars like I was, but I thought it was incredible. Did you think it was incredible? What did you think of the
match? I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I enjoyed both main events the same amount if I were to try to quantify it, but totally differently. So, I think the pacing was really different in both the matches. I think that the story that they were able to tell in both matches was totally different. And I actually think that my seed of doubt was greater last night. I thought Naito was going to win as soon as they put him in this main event. And only for a very brief moment tonight did I think, oh God, they're doing it again, and they were going to have Okada win. Like it never got me there. And that the thing about that is like normally when that happens in a wrestling match for me, it completely takes me out of it. I'm like, okay, I know who's going to win this, and I'm not going to have a good time with it. That wasn't the case tonight. This was such a good, well-performed match. Well-paced, enough of the outside stuff, but mostly in the ring. Naito spitting on Okada, and Okada just being Okada, like being that like confident, arrogant, like, yeah, maybe you're gonna win this match, but it's fine kind of guy. Like, I love that character, and I love that Naito finally got his moments. The facials, the camera work, they nailed it. They nailed all of the kind of high-level pro wrestling presentation. And last night, with Ibushi was more about the in-ring, flashy, hard-hitting, big moves, and that it represented just a different way to present really high-level pro wrestling. So I think we got Pro Wrestling 101 and Pro Wrestling 102 right at our fingertips over the course of 2 nights in the Tokyo Dome. Naito winning, I think, was a great moment, and I loved the Kenta angle. Like, I was so surprised by it. I thought they were going to give us the send-off. I thought we were in good shape, and frickin' Kenta comes out and just goes wild on it. So I think it's awesome. I think it was surprising who it was. Like they could have trotted Jay White out there to do another post-match run-in or whatever, but they didn't. They brought out someone different. That's he's got some heat now. So they're going to turn that into something, and it'll be a great first defense for Naito. So I loved it. I loved the post-match angle, and you're right. Fans will continue clamoring for him to finish that line in the Tokyo Dome. So it gives LIJ some more life ahead of them. So it's good stuff. It was a great weekend.
The thing too, I think I understand again that some LIJ fans are really upset, but if I'm looking at it like a little more, if you want to look at it a little more like rationally, as far as if you're hoping for a longer title reign, Kenta as a first challenger in like a attack like that, I mean, that's perfect because Kenta's not beating Tetsuya Naito for the double titles. So, I mean, that basically takes a quickie title reign off the table, I think. So you could look at like that as a positive, because if, let's say, Ibushi beat Jay White tonight and they were doing Naito Ibushi at New Beginning, I would be scared as a Naito fan that, they're giving him the fucking Tanahashi 1 month reign. So I don't know. I'm talking a lot about this Kenta thing because I get why, some people were really upset about it, but like, I just was like way too far on cloud 9 at that point to really get bothered by him not saying 2 words. Tyler, what do you think? Like, macro thoughts on the match? Did you find it to be as good as we're all saying? Did you What did you think of the match overall?
I don't know if it's going to be my match for the weekend because I was so enthralled with Okada and Ibushi, but it's right up there. It got 5 stars from me, and just macro wise, like the first New Japan show I ever watched was Wrestle Kingdom 12, and seeing Naito lose there, and then understanding how he got there, and then where he came from just from then on, and going into this weekend, it was really cool to see his evolution. And like last year, him regaining the Intercontinental title and almost repairing his relationship with it to be able to get to this point, I thought was really cool. He showed respect for the titles, unlike when he won at Invasion Attack a few years back, and then the IC title he's always kind of treated with a little bit of disdain. But he picked up the titles, he held them, he set them down nicely, and it showed a nice little element of how Naito is growing his character. And I thought the match was absolutely fantastic. I was surprised that it took Okada about 15 minutes to really start going after the knee, especially with how much Jay worked that over last night. But the table spot was just brilliant. And then just growing from that.
Can I cut you off really quickly? I think
absolutely, go ahead.
I think the knee thing, which, I think it was very similar to a story they told with Zack and Tanahashi, where Okada was so overconfident to start this match that he did not think he needed to go after the knee. And then as the match went on and Naito gave him like a way bigger fight than he was expecting, then he suddenly is just like, okay, fuck it, I have to do whatever to win this thing. But I love that they did that. When I go through the blow by blow a little bit more, I'm gonna talk about how they laid the match out. But I love that they waited instead of just immediately having him go right for the knee, because if you are Kazuchika Okada, you've beaten this guy literally every time you ever fought him. I mean, why would you think you have to, including at the Dome 2 years ago, why would you think you have to target a limb to beat this guy? I think you would just be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat him again. I don't need to go after his knee. So that was my thoughts on why they did that.
I guess my counter argument to that would be is he just went through an absolute war the night before with Ibushi, where he had to Rainmaker him 6 times in order to put him away. So even with that arrogance, you could argue that, hey, I'm not going to be at 100% because I just went through a war. I'm going to need to be able to go after that limb so I can at least try and make it easier on myself.
Right. No, that's fair. I think that was where, I think they told a really clear story in that match, and a really, really good story. So that's what kind of want to go through. First of all, the first 15 minutes I thought just blew away the first 15 minutes of Okada and Ibushi from last night, and that's why I have Okada Naito so far ahead of it, where I felt like nothing much really happened in the first 15 minutes yesterday. Here it was just paced so much, they were going at each other right away. There was minimal resting, there was a ton of resting yesterday in the first 15 of Okada Ibushi, and they waited that long, like I said, to reintroduce the knee thing, but they sort of told a story where Naito, what I thought was a story anyway, this is again me reading into it, but I thought the idea was Naito wanted it more, right? And they told that story in the build up over and over again, that Okada didn't give a fuck about the double titles, and Naito simply wanted it more, and that's why he was just always one step ahead of Okada. He always he always was ready for whatever he had. He even just flat out no-sold him a couple times, which was just it just felt like he was basically saying, I'm not going to lose to you here. It's just not going to happen. So that I thought made perfect sense. And Okada finally realizes that, and he's like, oh shit, okay, this is not the same Naito as 2 years ago. So, he slams him knee first on the table, which was such a great spot, such a great dickhead heel spot. And Joe Lanza pointed out on Twitter that he just lifted that from Yoshinobu Kanemaru against Shingo Takagi in the Best of Super Juniors last year. So just really taking one out of the guy whose nickname is Heel Master in his playbook. So, that was perfect. And, just he hitting someone knee first on a table and then slinking back in the ring to take a count out, that is a heel move. So they really leaned into it there. And then, Naito recovers. They go into the big forearm exchange. They both have this grin on their faces, like, they're both out of their minds, and they both just really enjoy it, which is great because, these are such old rivals at this point. And, then they get into, like, the crazy finishing stretch, and it never felt like it dragged before the crazy finishing stretch, which is such a huge problem for me with a lot of major Okada matches. Here, it never felt like it dragged before we got into the, the finisher reversal stuff. And, there's a great moment where, like, Okada, like, first of all, Okada hits the Rainmaker, and, I said this on Twitter, I actually could not, like, look at the screen for that cover, because, again, intellectually, I knew that Naito was, not getting pinned there. It just felt way too soon, even if he was going to lose, and Naito was going to kick out. But if they lost their minds and had decided to pin him there, I did not want to, like, see it, so I looked away from my screen. It was it's quite embarrassing, I guess. But so I looked away, and Naito kicked out. And then then at one point Naito just like fucking thrashes to escape this tombstone. Just his legs are like kicking like crazy, and he hits the mat even though he he can't even stand, and he still gets out of this tombstone. Just such a great moment. And Okada, he's really pissed at this point that he can't put this guy away. So he goes back to the knee. He gets like gigantic boos from Tokyo Dome for the first time, really, even more than the announce table shit, because people are like just really pissed at him that he's trying to win with this knee shit. But Naito counters the Rainmaker into the Destino. He can't cover right away because of the knee work, which is great, and hopefully shuts up some of the dorks who were yelling at him about the selling yesterday. And it gets 2, so because he can't cover right away, so that was perfect. And then he goes up and he hits the Stardust Press. First of all, when he points to the top rope, he does like the little fist bump on his chest. I think the big difference from 2 years ago, which I don't know how many people would even realize this right away.
Yeah, I remember it because
Okay.
I said in the preview, Naito. I just said randomly, Naito's going to win. I didn't have that much faith in it. Naito's going to win with the Stardust Press because that's really the story, right?
Right, but to me the difference.
But he at least went for it.
Well, why he hit it here and he didn't 2 years ago? He did not. 2 years ago, he pointed at the top rope like unsure. He pointed at the top rope. He waited for the crowd to tell him whether or not he should do it. He waits and waits and waits. He finally goes up there and goes for this fucking move, and Okada rolls out of the way. Here, he doesn't wait at all. He points for like 2 seconds. He chest bumps. He goes up and hits it. At this point, he's not asking the crowd, is it okay to do this? Is it okay to reference the Stardust Genius? Will you still like me? Even though you didn't like the Stardust. He's beyond all that bullshit, and he's just going to the top. He's like, I'm hit my move. Goodbye. I don't give a shit. And he just goes to the top rope and hits it. It's so perfect. It's perfect that Okada kicked out too, because I don't think that should have been the finish. But that was just such a great spot. And then he finally, there's a few more reversals. The key ends up being that, oh God, what is that move that he's doing? It's like a Northern Lights bomb, right? Isn't that like that movie?
The Valentia?
No, it's like the
Valentia, I think.
Well, no, I'm talking about like it's just
the
Northern Lights driver.
Whose Northern Lights bomb are you talking about? Sorry,
Naito.
Who's Northern Lights driver? Yeah, no, the Valentia.
Oh, it's called the Valentia. Okay, thank you.
That's what it's called. Yeah,
but he did not have that move 2 years ago, I think. So
no, he developed that in the last year, I think.
So I mean,
because there was a couple other matches.
Yeah, so
didn't he use it for the first time against Jericho at the Dome last year?
I think so. I think that's correct. I didn't even know it had a name, honestly, so I guess I'm a fake fan. But
oh damn, fake fan exposed.
But yes, last year at the Dome, I think it was against Jericho the first time. I mean, I remember it mostly against Ibushi because I feel like he hit that fucking thing on Coda in every single match the two of them had together. But yeah, I think that he did, like, to think about that move. Yeah, but like that move to me ends up being the difference because two years ago he did not have this big setup neck drop move before the Destino, like Okada has the spinning tombstone that ended up being Naito's enduring. So 2 years later, Naito has his big setup move. He drops Okada on his head, hits the final Destino, 1, 2, 3. So I don't know. It was as close to a perfect wrestling match as I think you can pretty much get. It was just an all-time amazing match, and it was. I'm sure a lot of it was like emotional investment and the fact that I waited all this time for this moment, but like I just think the match was fucking perfect anyway. Like I just think, every moment leading up to that conclusion was just fucking awesome, and I don't know. I don't really know what the complaints are about the match. I haven't really seen a lot of them, so maybe somebody can enlighten us in the chat if they just absolutely hated the match or something. But yeah.
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I thought it was incredible. I really did love it. But I don't know if anyone else has any extra thoughts here.
Well, can we talk for just a second about the interaction after the match with Naito and Okada,
that
right?
Was so good.
So Naito gets a mic, and I think he's gonna, run back Okada's kind of taunt of him from Wrestle Kingdom 12, and he takes the high road and says, "That was great. This feels great," basically, and maybe we can do it again sometime. And Okada's reaction was perfect. A little smirk. He's getting carried out, and he puts his fist up, like, "Yeah, I got you. I'm with you, and I'm out of here." Like, what a cool moment that was. That one just got me right in the feels.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought that point up, Chris. I'm glad you brought up the moment. I thought Naito Okada was doing like the LIJ pose. I don't know, maybe that was just me, but I thought he was.
Yeah, no, I think that, it was something similar to it, if nothing else. I don't know if it was supposed to be that blatant, but it was very cool.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And Justin Lee Mom brought up too. That's the other thing I was saying when I didn't realize my microphone was not working. The reverse Rana off the top. That was just such a cool spot, and the kind of like I think 6-6 spot that people expect in a match like this. And boy did it deliver. That was a crazy spot. The grapple average, by the way, right now, because I know some people are really into these ratings and stuff. It's at 4.9 from 136 ratings, which is like ridiculously high.
That's really high on grapple for that many ratings. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm sure it'll come down as it gets more over the next few days, but it's right up there with that that Okada Ibushi match, which is at 4.85 at 604. So that's a little. All that really says is like what the type of people that really enjoy New Japan matches think of this New Japan match. So, but not. I will be honest, not those folks don't always love Naito matches, especially to the same degree that I love them. So, it's cool just to see that everybody. It seems pretty universal among the fan base that people are really, really adored this match. Do you have anything you want to add about it, Gerard, before we move on?
Can we talk? Can we talk about Jericho versus Tanahashi?
Well, we're going to get to that. Yeah, that'll be next.
Okay.
Back to the card.
Okay. Well, that's what I was.
Tyler, do you have anything you want to add about Okada Naito real quick?
No, it was just masterclass pro wrestling through and through. Told a fantastic story. It culminated a journey for Naito, and the Kenta turn just pivots completely to something brand new and really exciting.
So I agree, and I already talked enough about that, but it didn't bother me at all. And if anything, New Year's Dash tomorrow could have some cool stuff. So Naito is champion, and not getting to say 2 words is not going to change that. So let's go to Jericho and Tanahashi then, which was the semi-main event. I'll let somebody else take. Gerard, you were very into the idea of talking about this, so you can go first, I guess. I
fucking love this thing, and I didn't expect, I thought because it was Tanahashi and Jericho, I thought Tanahashi would carry this, and he very much did. Have been mixed on Jericho. Loved his match against Naito in January.
didn't really like his match against Okada in June. Strangely enough, I liked his match against Hangman at Double or Nothing, or sorry, All Out, but was getting a little tired of him. But like, this was fucking incredible. He just controlled that crowd and hit those spots that are like this out of shape fat guy hitting the spots, and you're like panicking if he's gonna land them, but still when he does, it's just incredible. And I thought the back and forth was incredible, and Tanahashi actually looked better coming out of this match than I thought he would, because I thought he would take a definitive Judas effect or something on the ground, but I thought the way that the submission was done was like very good for him.
Yeah, I agree, and I was a little lower on it than some of you guys, but I still gave it 4 stars. I still thought it was awesome. It just didn't maybe get to that next level like it seemed to for a lot of people. What did you think of Jericho and Tanahashi, Chris?
This might have been my favorite Jericho New Japan match. The Naito match didn't get me last year for whatever reason. I think if I went back, it would probably be better than when I was watching it live. But I liked this a lot. I think these guys worked really well together. I think they knew what they were capable of, and I think that they had worked all that out. Throughout the course of the match, they took some smaller risks. You saw a lot of high fly flows and things of the sort attempted, but the counters were good. The action was good throughout. It went about the right amount of time, I think, and it didn't spend as much time outside of the ring as I thought it was going to. And I think that's a positive. That's a positive development in the world of Jericho matches.
Yeah, that did stand out, that they didn't really do any major crowd brawling compared to a lot of other matches and stuff. So that is an interesting one.
And Jericho had the crowd even in a big building like that. Like, that dude just commands attention. And Tanahashi's the same way. So it was a good combination. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I guess I'm looking at the gravel average again. I'm right around the average. It's 4.16, I think. So I'm not really that far below it. But our Slack seemed to love it a lot more than that. So that's why I guess it made me think everybody was way higher than me.
I was high on it.
Yeah. What do you give star ratings? I forget.
Oh, I went 4.75.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, what did you think of Jericho and Tanahashi?
This was one of my favorite Jericho matches that I've seen in a long time as well, and I went 4.5 on it. It really started off on a low note just because we didn't get to hear Judas on the way in, which really stunk. But after that, I really liked how one of the initial exchanges, Tanahashi went and did the air guitar. And then shortly after that, Chris Jericho kind of mocked him with his own little shitty air guitar because he actually is a rock star. And I thought that was a little cool touch. I liked the counter Tanahashi had for the Judas effect. And I was really surprised that wasn't the finish, because being that it's an MMA style back elbow, anybody can get a hit with it and just be knocked out. And that's in a shoot, that happens all the time, where Tanahashi tapping out, I was really surprised by that finish, because I thought it made him look weaker than if he would have just taken the Judas effect. But they did a really good job at making everything flow. It didn't feel like it was stagnant for a little bit of time at any point. I always pop hard for that Jericho DDT on the table where he just spikes the guy, and Tanahashi felt like he was vertical for about 5 seconds. These guys just worked really well together. They're two veterans that are masters at telling stories, and it was a fantastic match.
anyone want to add anything else before we? I didn't really say anything about what I thought about it, but I guess all I will say at the end too is I'm glad Jericho won and the Forbidden Door stays shut for now at least.
I'm also glad that the Forbidden Door is shut, and I think it should stay shut forever. So
who is Jericho? I wonder who Jericho was subtweeting. Did you see his post-match comments? He said
no.
They should put the egos and the I think I don't want to misquote him. Something like egos and hurt feelings or something. And
well, I think that means someone.
Yeah, I mean, is he talking Kenny and the Bucks? Is he talking New Japan? Is he talking both? I don't know. Not really sure.
Did he listen to last night's Wrestling Observer Radio? Because it sounded like it was direct from there.
So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm sure Jericho. I mean, it totally makes sense that Jericho would want these two companies to work together because he works for both of them. But apparently my microphone's a lot lower than the rest of the crew. Thank you for telling me, Mr. Danny Magoo. Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm not sure I can do anything about that with this setup, but I guess you can let me know if that helps at all. But yes, so as far as the totally lost my train of thought there, but I appreciate you telling me, Danny. As far as the Forbidden Door and all that stuff goes, I would be fine with it staying closed for now. But I'm sure I get why Jericho obviously would want it to, maybe open in the future. But he works for both these companies anyway, so it makes total sense that he would want these two companies to get along and work together. But there you go. And yes, Scott Barker. I'm sorry, I almost said Baker. Tanahashi's pre-match fucking video, that was awesome. Where they have all these. You see all the clown makeup guys, and you think it's gonna be the Jericho video, but then it's Tanahashi rocking out with them. That was great. I mean, that's the kind of goofball shit that you can deal with because it's in a pre-match video. I mean. You can deal with a little goofy pre-match video. But, yeah, that was awesome. And anything else about Tanahashi Jericho before we move on? No? Okay.
No. Nope.
Let's go to Jay White and Kota Ibushi. So this was a weird one where I liked the match, I liked a lot of the match quite a bit. And there was certainly stuff about it that I really liked. But the run-in shit. I mean, it felt like Jay White regressed, if anything, over the course of these two nights. He beat Naito pretty much clean at the G1. I went on this rant yesterday too. He beat Naito pretty much clean at the G1. He beat Naito really clean at Destruction in Kobe. It felt like he needed so much Gato interference here to beat Kota that it's I don't know, it made him feel way cheaper and it ruined the match for me. I mean, I still went 3.5 on it, so it's not like I fucking hated it or anything, but some of the action was so good that I really could have gone a lot higher if not for just so much garbage in this match. So I don't know. It's just 50 fucking ref bumps, all the Gator run-ins. Some people aren't bothered by it, and if you're one of them, that's cool, I guess. But I'm really Jay White needs to be beyond this at some point. I get it. It's heel heat and stuff, but just let the guy beat some people without needing 50 Gator run-ins. And they were doing it. That's the part that really infuriates me. They were letting him beat some folks clean, and I thought we were moving beyond Gator with the brass knucks and shit. And it feels like we're right back where we started now, and that's really frustrating. So I hope after this he's gonna reinvent himself a little bit and go in a different direction. What did you?
Well, do you think though? People have always speculated Jay White's ultimate direction is super mega babyface, but I think it's still too early to do that.
It's too early. But you could just have him be a heel that wins. More cleanly. I mean, there's plenty of heels in this company that beat people clean.
But wasn't it? Joe Lanza said if Jay isn't cheating, or is anyone going to even believe he can win, though?
Right. No, I mean, that's fair.
Right.
But okay, I get that for the Naito match. This match, I don't think you need to do that. I mean, this is a fucking third place match.
No.
I mean, you could buy anybody winning. I mean, it doesn't matter who wins this. So, I get that argument that Joe made for Naito and White, because, Jay realistically never had a chance in hell of winning that match, so you got to do anything you can. That's fine. But here, I mean, anyone could have won this match. It doesn't fucking matter. It's not even for anything, really, other than maybe a title shot in the future, and who knows even if that's the case anymore with this Kenta attack. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of silly, and I'm not really sure, what the point of, doing that was. So, I think it just was too much.
I think tonight the point of doing it was to not completely ruin Kota Ibushi. And have him lose two clean in a row, because what we saw was two visual pins essentially of Kota Ibushi winning that match, and then Jay White comes through with the victory anyway. So I think that's probably the logic, is to keep Ibushi in the picture here. Whether or not that actually matters or works, like that's kind of up to you. But like I think that's where I see the decision being made to go this direction with the end of this match.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I agree. I'm sure that's what they were probably thinking a little bit, but like, I don't know. Is that not a little over defensive of Kota? Like, do you think people are gonna be jumping off the Kota Ibushi bandwagon just because he lost a couple?
I think the amount that they did was too much, and it was an overcorrection for the decision to have Kota Ibushi lose. When it comes down to it. So,
yeah, that's what I think.
Because I think you give him one, the one visual pin, or honestly, I would have just done Gato pulls the ref out of the ring. I would have done that one. I wouldn't have done the typical Marty Asami, falls on the floor ref for an hour ref bump. But when Gato pulled the ref out of the ring, I thought that was the one I would have done. That would have been the one time I had Gato included in the match, and then I would have then from there you go to the finish, and which the finish was, it ended up good, the straight jacket Bloody Sunday, and then the Blade Runner is still super protected. I think that they could have gotten there without all of the shenanigans, maybe just like a touch of the shenanigans.
Yeah, no, I agree. But so I definitely just like you're saying, I think they just overdid it. I think that's a great way to put it. And I get it too, because I mean, you have a guy come into this weekend and then lose both matches. I get why they're a little worried, but like, I don't know, it's Kota Ibushi. People always gonna love Kota Ibushi. So I think they were a little maybe over concerned, for no reason maybe, but it definitely hurt this match.
I think that.
Go ahead,
John. I think because when you watch the Ibushi Okada match, and it took 6 rainmakers for Ibushi to finally go down. I think the logic being like you have to do that much to put him down because it took Okada 6 rainmakers. So you have to have that much interference. Plus, it protects Ibushi for not having to lose 2 matches, which you could argue does or doesn't matter. I can see both points. And then moving forward, like he's these last 2 matches, we really saw murder Ibushi. And how does that grow over the course of the next calendar year? And how does that propel him forward? Because he is full-time New Japan. He kind of got a little bit of the Rocket Pack this year. How does that change moving forward into 2020? And does he grow? And the comments about he could be a better heel than anybody in Bullet Club, does that come to fruition? Does maybe a new faction become born tomorrow at New Year's Dash? I think all those little elements, because of the interference, really can propel his character growth and development, and it'll be really interesting to see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, I will say over the years by now, like faction, like a unit shuffle, I'll like believe that when I see it, I guess is the best way to put it. I just feel like that's been overdue for so long and we haven't gotten it, that like I'm just kind of waiting, but I guess we'll see. between matches here, between matches 5 and 6, they announced a lot of the Japanese dates. Really no big surprises unless you weren't paying attention to the rumor mill, because the thing about the fall G1 that's been going around for months and months. I think Kevin Kelly even hinted about it on the air, like during the Super Junior Tag League this year. So, but yeah, the final 3 dates of the G1, it's moving back to Ryogoku, and it's going to be October 16th through 18th. So I assume that means if it's based on the same kind of schedule as previous years, it's going to start like mid-September. So like mid-September to mid-October is what you're looking at. For people wondering why it moved back from Budokan, I think it had probably most to do with the merch situation in the Budokan is what I've heard. Like, they have the merch stalls at the Budokan, if you've never been to the Budokan, which I never have, but I've heard from people who've been there. It's like the merchandise is not in the building. It's like a little bit of a ways away. I don't know exactly how long, like a 5-minute walk or something, in like a little outdoor area. So apparently I think that hurts their merchandise sales. So I think they sell a lot more merchandise back at Sumo Hall. So that probably had a lot to do with it.
I've never heard that, but I find that fascinating, especially as someone that's like watched like so many matches, and like, you know, Budokan is obviously a legendary building.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I also think the New Japan fans just prefer Sumo Hall. And that's like, it's a new, like Sumo Hall has always been New Japan.
And apparently all the sweating that goes on in there.
Yeah. Okay, people are saying they're having a hard time hearing me, which kind of sucks. Let me see. It looks like my mic is registering. I don't know. I'm sorry, folks, about any technical issues here. We don't normally do this setup, so I'm trying my best here. But yeah, it looks like it's all registering on my end. I'm sorry if it's difficult to hear me. Anyway, I'm gonna try. I'll fix that in post, hopefully for the actual podcast. But sorry, you get to bear with me here on the live broadcast. I'm not really sure how to fix it. Anyway, back to the point I was trying to make on the Budokan in Ryogoku. I mean, Sumo Hall was always like the New Japan building, you know. So I think it's just like, whereas like Budokan is the All Japan building. So I think the New Japan fans, do have a little more of attachment to Sumo Hall, and they only moved it from Sumo Hall to the Budokan originally because of that. I think it was in 2018 they were doing like earthquake proofing for the Olympics, right? And then they kept it at the Budokan in 2019, but I guess there's a long-winded way of saying I'm not really surprised they moved it back. I don't think it really means anything, like as far as their attendance or anything like that, because they did sell out the finals both years. So there you go. Other people are saying I'm audible, so okay. That's fine. I don't know. I'm glad you guys can hear me. But yeah, so the fall G1, that's an interesting little wrinkle, obviously, because of the Summer Olympics. I'm going to try to go. I've always I went to the G1 in 2017, and it was incredible. The only thing that wasn't incredible was the heat, which was really like Japan in August. If you've never been, it's like fucking, I don't know. It's like the worst place in America you could think of for like heat plus humidity, but like even worse, it's like 90% humidity to 95% humidity. It's like really bad. So I was like, well, I really like this, but I'm never going to do it again probably because it was so miserable with the humidity. But here we go. Now I can go back and see the last 3 nights of a G1 again without dealing with the ridiculous heat. And then I know Big Japan already has a Korakuen on the books on the 20th, and DDT has a Korakuen on the 25th. So you can see a bunch of other shows too, and who knows what might be added. So I'm going to try to get like a little trip in that 10-day span, but should be exciting. But yeah, the other thing that really didn't come up was that I think people were expecting, where there was no international dates. I wouldn't read too much into that. I know there's some big American dates on the books already that they haven't announced yet, so I would just say, like, stay tuned. I'm sure they're going to announce that, like, separately. And, again, if you're like a UK fan and you're worried that there was no Royal Quest announcement, or Royal Quest 2 announcement, I wouldn't read into it like it's definitely off. I know the Global account on Twitter already tweeted that like global announcements are going to come later. So, I wouldn't worry too much. I think you'll probably still get another UK show. I don't know, like, why would they not go back when they sold out the first one? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, I guess we'll see. But okay, so Kenta and Goto, match number 5. I absolutely love this match. I think I was a lot higher on it than a lot of people. Looking both at my Twitter feed and like at the grapple rate average, which looks like it's at 3.88. So I'm a lot higher than that. But yeah, some people really did like it. Some people didn't like it nearly as much as I did. But I thought it was like a really incredible match. Like a perfect blend of like Kenta doing his heel stick and these like more traditional like puro slugfest spots, and it took a little bit to get going, but by the time they were just really like destroying each other, I thought it was incredible. Goto selling was like when Goto gets into into that next level of selling, like that really Goto can easily let you down. I'd be the first one to admit that, but when he really is into a match, like I am an unabashed Goto mark when he's really on, and I thought he was super on here. But yeah, I thought this was just really incredible. Like all the striking and like the slaps and stuff down the stretch, it really sticks out in my mind. And I went 4.5 stars on it by the end, which, like I said, a lot higher than some other people seem to go. But I just thought the two of them worked really, really well together, and it built really well by the end. What'd you think of Kenta and Goto, Chris?
I think this is the match that kind of puts the whole show together for me. A match like this that kind of carries this like really, really heavy weight of strong style. Kenta looked like he got freaking knocked out. And he sold it like he got knocked out, and like that's part of Kenta's story with the Never title. So I thought that was a good piece, and then from there on they were just beating the shit out of each other. So I liked that it had the right amount of time. It was 16 minutes. Goto hit kind of all his big moves to put Kenta away, and that was it. They kind of got in, did their storytelling right at the beginning, and then knocked out the moves and called it a day. But like matches like this that are like super well executed, just like put together really well and then executed really well, like these are the matches that carry an entire show up for me. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point that you made too, like the strong style. Like I think you need a match like this on a Wrestle Kingdom card, and maybe night 1 was kind of missing it, but I think it really is important to have a match where they're just gonna go out there and beat the piss out of each other. I think that's just very much a part of like the Wrestle Kingdom experience, and Goto has done these matches a lot, and I think he almost always delivers. I shouldn't even say almost, like I really can't remember. Goto definitely does have a tendency to sometimes not deliver, but like I can't ever remember him not delivering on a Wrestle Kingdom. If anyone, maybe there's an obvious one I'm not thinking.
Well, I think this match, like in particular, like looking at the whole card overall, is like this is why I liked it more than last night. I thought the second night was better than the first night. I don't know if I'm on an island on that one.
No, I think because the first, like
if like from like beginning to start, you crunch the numbers and everything. I thought the second night was better.
I don't. It's close for me because there was like stuff on both shows I liked and didn't like, but I think like this match is a big tip, a big cap, and a feather in night 2's cap, because it felt like this kind of like very strong style-ish match was missing from night 1. Maybe the closest one night 1 had was Okada and Ibushi, actually, when they started beating the piss out of each other.
Well, I'll be honest, I went 5 stars on Ospreay and Hiromu, yeah, which was the only 5-star I went that night.
Yeah.
So that was my match of the weekend for me, and I think it still is, but like from beginning to end, I thought night 2 was better.
Do you have anything to say specifically about this match, Gerard? I don't think you really talked about that much.
No, I was just like waiting for like Goto to do his thing, and like in some ways it was like a predictable like build up Goto match, and then like bam bam bam, like the big stuff at the end. So solid match, but like nothing we haven't seen from Goto at Wrestle Kingdom.
Tyler, anything you want to add about Goto and Kenta?
I think the one thing that really stood out to me was just Kenta and his mannerisms and his cocky attitude and just his hateability. Like from the second his music hit and you saw him walk down the entrance ramp, he was just being really slow. He had this asshole look about him, and he didn't smirk. He didn't look at Goto. He just went into the ring, just pissed off. And then he and Goto just beat the living piss out of each other, and it was fantastic. And then you kind of saw it when Kenta did the run-in on Naito, kind of the same mannerisms in his face, and he just one of the best, if not the best heel in the business right now. And I thoroughly enjoy Kenta, and it's also really funny that Goto wins another title at Wrestle Kingdom, and the guy he beats is going on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. So I think I got disconnected on YouTube there while you were talking. So, but all that'll be on the actual podcast. Sorry, guys, if you're listening live. This stream thing has been very iffy today for some reason. But yeah, so that was Goto and Kenta. The match before that, the U.S. title, Juice and Moxley, I thought that was like the big disappointment of the night. I only went 2 3/4 on it. It was okay, but just nothing in that match grabbed me to any great degree. It just kind of felt like, it felt very much like a Raw match, I guess, which is not really a compliment on Wrestle Kingdom. But the post-match angle was incredible, and I think that's ultimately having a really awesome post-match angle like that can go a long way towards making up for a disappointing match. Just the moment Minoru Suzuki's music hit, like everybody just goes nuts. It makes completely perfect sense, and it's one of those things where I try not to rave about this too much because it should be really fucking basic, and the fact that like the biggest wrestling company in the world can't do something that's basic isn't really reason to overly praise New Japan for it. But like just the fact that like they gave you a moment that looked throwaway, when Moxley came to the ring to confront Lance Archer at the World fucking Tag League Finals of all shows. He confronts Lance Archer there. He gives him this DDT, and he gives Suzuki this DDT just because Suzuki's there. The fact that moment, which easily could have meant nothing, it easily could have just been like a thing that's forgotten, that they bring that up, a month plus later. They send Suzuki out there for this great moment, and it makes perfect sense. It's not just a man randomly coming out here. It's because like he fucking remembers that he DDT'd you. He doesn't have amnesia. He's not, it's not a new pay-per-view cycle, so it's not time to, have the entire roster forget what happened for the last month. So, again, you can't. It's easy to fall into a trap of overly praising New Japan for something that should be so fucking simple that, more companies should be doing it, especially gigantic companies. But it is still great just to see that happen and see, that moment get paid off with that really awesome moment, and the crowd doing the sing along and everything, just getting that theme song play in there when he didn't get it on either night before that. But yeah, just a really cool moment. Sets up a really awesome sets up a match that I know that Moxley wanted, so I'm sure it'll be a really fun match. I guess, Chris, any thoughts on the match or the angle? Anything you want to talk about here?
Yeah, not much on the match. It was fine. I love that Moxley retained. I think to a lot of people, it was a foregone conclusion that Moxley wasn't going to at least end this weekend as the U.S. champ. But here we are. And I think that's great. I think it's great that New Japan clearly has more dates with him. And I think that, the setup for Suzuki was just so clean. And it's not going to require much more than just booking the match whenever, when they want to do it, which will probably be New Beginning. But like they don't need to do much more than they've already done, and with a guy like Moxley, that's how they're gonna have to build it. They're gonna have to build it when he's in Japan, or when he's willing to come over for a minute. So the match itself was a match that happened.
Yeah. Jonathan Hernandez in the chat want to say just like Gato's done a great job like training the viewer, and he was waiting for Suzuki with their seat from the second that DDT hit. And again, you need to like you want to have as a viewer to know that like if stuff happens, it's usually gonna pay off in something. So that's it's a really cool aspect of the booking that I think like you don't want to praise it too much again, like I said, because it is very basic, but. The fact that it paid off, I think, was just great, and just such an awesome moment. And who the fuck ever could have? Again, like I've said this a million times with Moxley, but like a year ago, imagine telling someone that you're going to see like Dean Ambrose and Minoru Suzuki confront each other in the Tokyo Dome. It's just so crazy. Gerard,
and you're gonna like it,
and you're gonna love it, yeah. Like the Tokyo Dome's gonna go nuts. Gerard, anything on the match or the angle here?
I really love the match. I went 4 stars. That was even before the like post-match angle. I thought the last little where they were reversing their finishers very briefly. I thought that was actually awesome. But I get it. It was a little slow to begin with, but still at the same time, like by the end of it, like Moxley was like again the talk of the town.
Yeah, I mean, just it's a really he's done a great job like choosing. I think if this is his choice, I think if he beats Suzuki, I think they should put him up against Naito next. I think that'd be really cool to do like the
that has to be avenged too anyway.
From the right from the G1. So, you'd figure that. I mean, he said, I'm big game hunting after yesterday, which I thought was like a really early tease. So of like maybe a Naito big like double champion versus champion match, but I guess we'll see. Tyler, what do you think of the match or the angle or both?
The match was fine. I went 3 stars. It existed. They did some stuff, and nothing really stood out. It was just there. This is a Wrestle Kingdom card, and we know like just learning more about Jon Moxley. Like, he's a Puro nerd. He loves this shit just like we do, and you could see just generally like. How much he loved being in the match last night with Lance Archer, and you could tell that his juices were flowing the second that Suzuki music hit, and he was all in and he was excited. But the Juice match, it was just there, and I kind of felt bad for Juice because this is like the 3rd match in a row at the Tokyo Dome where his has been used as the piss break.
Yeah. I mean, they should put those intermissions back just to free poor Juice Robinson from being the intermission.
Yeah, I mean, we easily blamed Cody last year because his matches in New Japan were boring and he was hurt. But apparently last night that you could maybe blame God, but are you really going to blame Jon Moxley for tonight? Like, I don't know. The match was fine. I'm glad to see that Juice is going to be focusing more on the tag division because that needs some life. And I think he and Finley can bring some unique, can get some new opponents and really do something with it. But I am all in for Moxley and Suzuki. They'll just beat the snot out of each other. And that's what I love in wrestling. Just 2 guys fighting.
I mean, look, if you need a U.S. title match to headline one of those 2 New Beginning and Sapro shows, I think that's a great one. I mean, that's a main event, so you could totally do that as a main event. So, let's see here. The previous, we haven't even mentioned, by the way, I guess because it feels so long ago now, but like obviously the stream had a lot of issues. I don't know how you guys dealt with it. I had a pretty awesome.
I was watching on Fire Stick.
Yeah,
that conked out for the longest amount of time. I think because you were talking about it for a while. So I just I went onto my laptop and logged on the website, and then within a reasonable amount of time that started to work. But people were like dealing with all sorts of other things for a while. Yeah. So I think it might have been completely location dependent. But I think most English speakers were knocked out of Fire Stick at least.
Yeah, the Fire Stick did not work for me for the longest time. And even after it started working for me again, I could never get the English to load. Like the English would load up, but like it would be like the English language feed would be like 3 frames per second or something. So like it's so freaking choppy, and that was all the way to the end because I switched back to the English just to see, just to get Chris Charlton's translations, and it was still in like the 3 frames per second. So I ended up on the Japanese all night, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind watching Japanese at all, and I'll even watch it in Japanese sometimes. But that's just what ended up happening. But I had a good backup plan anyway because I have the Japanese TV networks, and so when like the first thing went down, I just switched to watching on TV SIE, which was a good backup plan to have. But yeah, some people I know had a lot of trouble just logging in, and a lot of people even on the website. But hopefully you, the listener here, you got back in time. But I don't really think it didn't really affect my enjoyment and everything because I got. I think the only thing
no, I mean, like, it was really only a half hour thing,
and
really, at the end of it.
And I got my, the only thing I missed, I guess, was the end of the Liger match, which I'm going to go back and see, what happened. But
right. Although I think we're probably getting to the limits of how many people can watch these streams without any upgrades.
I heard they had like thousands of new subscribers for these shows, which is kind of
really?
Yeah. So
okay.
Like they had a really huge boost in subscribers this year. So I don't know if that's because of Liger. I don't know if it's just people really into the Double Gold Dash or, Jericho and Tanahashi. I'm sure Jericho and Tanahashi with all the AEW stuff.
I guess the number is 120, 125, because that's what they claim that Omega versus Jericho 1 brought. I think.
So I think
that.
It spiked like 40% just once they announced the Jericho match.
Yeah, so I think probably, and I know any people they lost after the AEW split, they gained a lot back in the UK and Australia apparently this year. So apparently they stayed pretty even. So I don't know, maybe they got to like 150 now. I don't know, but I heard it was way up, is what I was hearing. So maybe that has to do with the issues they were having. But yeah, so let's see. The match before that was Sonata and Zack Sabre Jr. for the British Heavyweight title. I like this a lot. I know some people didn't really seem to care for it too much, but I thought it was a fun little mat wrestling match with all the counters and submission holds and like flash pins and stuff that I enjoy. So I went 3 3/4. I had a really good time with it. I was a little bit sad that Zack did not lose the title and Sonata did not become champion of the British because it would have upset some people. But it didn't happen, so what are you going to do? Chris, what did you think of Sonata and Zack?
I liked it as much as I like any of their matches. I had the most fun watching Tiger Hattori try to keep up, so that was cool. But otherwise it was the 5th in a series that I've enjoyed. I think they can wait to go back to it for a little while. I liked that Sonata did not win. Because it meant we weren't going to get some cheesy LIJ roll call with the Never Trios title included.
I do.
Just because I
will be honest.
I would have a tough. I mean, like I get everyone's got a belt, but nah.
I know when people talk about the everyone with a belt thing, it's like
I'm feeling extremely exposed right now.
It's like no. Like everything with everyone with a belt.
I expected that so bad,
Everyone with a belt. I don't know if the never belts even count as a belt.
Like, really... did they even have all 3 of them?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pleased that they didn't try to just like wedge that in there as kind of the ending piece, and but yeah, it was fine.
What'd you think, Gerard?
I love this. I went 4 1/4. It was just like exactly what I wanted it to be. Fun, reversal. I was expecting, Sonata winning and that playing into like a broader angle, but doesn't matter. Like just an absolutely like fun pro wrestling match. Although, you have to be into like that sort of like back and forth reversal type of thing.
Anything you want to add here, Tyler?
I've been struggling to stay awake all night because I'm running on absolutely no sleep. So I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to this one specifically. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it. But from what I saw, it reminded me a lot of their Dallas match. And I really like kind of stuff, but at the same time, it can get a little monotonous and just repetitive. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch it to really formulate a good opinion.
Before that, we had the junior tag team titles. This was probably just not. I mean, a lot of other people like this more than me, but it never clicked with me. Roppongi 3K and ELP Nishimori. I went 2.5 stars on it. Very average match. It was all right, but just nothing that I really was that into. It was just there for me. So I don't know, Chris. Did you feel any differently about the junior tag team championship?
I typically like these matches. This is where I was seeking streaming options, so I don't think I hardly saw a minute of it.
Yeah. Gerard, did you see any of the junior tag team titles?
Well, I was also having streaming options during this, but at the same time, and I'll say this, and I don't want to be too much of an asshole, but like, there was a lot of emphasis on ELP that I was not particularly buying into at the time either, right? So I eventually got my stream back and everything, but I didn't see everything, and what I saw I wasn't particularly impressed by.
Yeah. Tyler, real quick, anything about the junior tag titles?
And I was actually very impressed with ELP. He was very smooth, very crisp, and he played very, very well into his character. Like, the moonsault into a back rake was one of the cockiest things I think I've ever seen in a wrestling ring.
I laughed at that, though, mockingly. I was like, come on, because they were just like back raking for the last like 5 minutes before that, too.
Yeah. It was stupid, but it fit really well into the ELP character because he's just a stupid jackass. And then at the end, where Show's got the nut cup on with the utilizing Rocky sneaky style, I thought was a really good touch. And I mean, it's a junior tag title match at Wrestle Kingdom. It was good. I really haven't seen a great one since Roppongi Vice got the belts off the Bucks. It was fine.
I think you mean that. Oh, Roppongi Vice. Yeah. I like that Roppongi 3K Bucks. Oh no, maybe actually no. Their really good match was like at like the New Beginning, I guess.
Well, the one at Wrestle Kingdom 12 was the start of Matt selling his back for like an entire calendar year.
Yeah, which got hokey. Let's see. Okay, really quick before I go into the last 2 matches, Scott Barker asked in the live chat, what will you think happen going forward Naito's heavyweight and IC defenses? Do you think they'll be defended separately or both at once? That's a great question, and I'm assuming it's going to be separately because otherwise why would they set up 2 challengers at once, They have White and Kenta kind of set up here with White, winning that de facto number 1 contendership match and Kenta laying him out at the end. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they're going to do Kenta on this tour and then White on another tour. But I assume they're going to defend them separately. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. Does anybody think?
Yeah, but if you win the IC title, though, don't you look like a bit of a geek if you don't manage to take the world title off of him? I don't know.
I mean, if you win the IC, you should at least get. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to detangle, which I guess is probably why they've never done this before.
Right, because like one belt will always suffer when you detangle them.
Yeah.
Right? Like ideally this has just become the double gold that we talk about, permanently.
Yeah, but the Intercontinental is so
I'm
cool
not completely sold one way or another that's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Is anybody really convinced they're gonna keep them together or really convinced they're gonna have them separate? Because I could see it going either way.
I kind of think they'll do something like a WWE. I know when Becky got her 2 belts, she defended both of them in like the same night, and then she'll defend in like separate matches or the same match. So I think they'll keep them together for a little bit, but eventually they'll try and figure out a way to separate them, or they'll just completely get rid of the IC title.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be doing a little bit of everything at first, because as much as Gato does a fantastic job, I wonder if he really knows what he wants to do with these 2 belts.
Yeah.
Well, if they're gonna do 2 belts, keep them separate, because the worst booking I hated was the tag titles and then the US title. I liked the matches, but I just didn't like the way that was handled in the booking.
I think that there's a chance that eventually Naito vacates the IC and the New Japan comes for the IC title.
Oh yeah, maybe that could be.
You could also do there's 2 nights of Dantaku where Naito has to defend the IC in night 1, and night 2 he has to defend the heavyweight, and that would be an easy way for him to lose one of those titles.
Yeah, there's options. I guess is the best way to put it. I guess we'll have to just wait and see what they do. The final 2 matches wrapping up here as I rapidly fall asleep on the air. The Liger retirement tag. This was just a damn good match here. I went 3.5 stars on it. The only issue I have with this match is that it didn't feel like a retirement match, and that's just because usually when you're in a retirement match, the wrestler that's retiring fucking sucks and clearly needs to hang it up. And Liger was great here, and he just was so good that you're almost like, first of all, why are you retiring? But he just wants to fucking hang him up and rest his body for a while. Who can blame him, I guess. But it just felt like another tag match. So it didn't have that feeling of this guy clearly has to hang him up. It just kind of felt like, well, here's a tag match, and Liger could do a million more of these if he wanted to. But see you later, buddy. I guess. But the emotion hit me at the start. It didn't really hit me at the end. But I think tomorrow, with the ceremony, is when it'll really, really hit me. Chris, any thoughts on the Liger tag?
Yeah, I just thought it was a good match. I think Liger participated more than his typical average, and they put on a show. It was good. It was better than your average retirement match, like you were saying. He doesn't suck. But I think that's gonna be why we remember him the way we do. That he's not going out hardly standing like some of these guys that are still hanging on.
Yeah. Gerard?
This was incredible. The way that Liger was just commanding the ring at one point was awesome. I hadn't seen anything like that in a while, even though I wasn't expecting much going into it. But obviously with the ending was, I think we all expected Liger to get pinned sort of the way he did, and by who he did. It was still to me it did feel like a retirement match, and it was just wrestled perfectly.
Anything?
Yeah, I was really confused why Ryu Lee was wearing a Dragon Lee t-shirt that he wasn't wearing when he walked down to the ring.
Because he's in Los Ingobernables de ROH.
Well, no, I understand that part, but the fact that he can't use Dragon Lee in New Japan, but he's wearing a Dragon Lee t-shirt, I thought was very odd. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. And then it was awesome. I really like the fact that Liger is retiring before he can't go anymore. So then we're not looking back at it like we're kind of looking at Nakanishi right now. Nakanishi can't go. He just looks really bad. He's just beaten down and run down, and he can't move. But Liger delivered a 4+ star match at the anniversary show against Taiji Ishimori. He can still go at a high level. He delivered a 4-star match against Suzuki. We're never going to see him deteriorate to a point where he can't go anymore. And we're always going to remember that Liger was great, and we're never going to see him as inferior in any way. And I really appreciated that.
The last thing I want to talk about, the gauntlet. I just got such a kick out of Makabe and Yano and Taguchi in that last segment. Just especially Taguchi, but even Makabe and Yano kind of fighting for their lives to hold on to these their record-breaking never 6-man title reign. These belts that people forget all year, but they were Taguchi especially was fighting like crazy to try to hold on these stupid belts, and I really got a kick out of it. So I went 3.5 on the whole thing. Just
I thought the whole gauntlet was good. Like this, I'm trying to even like recall the teams because there was a Suzuki Gun team, and then there was team with Yoshihashi and Robbie Eagles and Ishii, which was a great team that I wanted to win, but they managed to survive once and then they fell. But like that was a really fun match.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great time. But like, as far as like a pre-show match, I thought it was one of the better ones.
Right.
Chris, anything to add about the pre-show gauntlet?
Yeah, I like the gauntlets. I prefer them to the Rambo, so this was a win for me. I had no feelings about who was going to win, but I like them. I like this as a way to get 15 guys on the card. I probably would have picked a different 15 maybe with a couple of these guys, but so be it. You only have so much time.
Yeah. What do you think, Tyler?
I actually haven't had a chance to watch it. I was driving home from a late Christmas party, so I was able to see the whole main card, but I haven't watched the gauntlet yet.
Yeah. So there you go. And I want to say one final thing while, I'm going through the whole replies and stuff on the New Japan feed. People are really Japanese fans are really mad about that Kenta thing. So I don't know if it's good heat or bad heat.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
But is that the same kind of heat that they got because of Jericho at Dominion and?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's a lot of replies obviously auto translate's not going to get all of it. But
where's Naito talking and that kind of thing?
This one's at least do a J or a big player from another organization. Kenta shouldn't have been the one, that kind of thing. And people didn't like that it was Kenta, and someone else was like, "Oh, Shibata didn't bring him here to do this." And yeah, the New Japan feed's filled with replies from Japanese fans who are pissed off. So I thought that was.
Oh wow!
I mean, I don't know if it's bad heat though. I think it could be kind of good heat. So I'm not really ready to declare that it was a bad idea. But people
but I don't think necessarily publicly the realities of it all have been admitted. I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better way to phrase it, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
I just think it's a ballsy angle. I'll say that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens from here. But all right, let's wrap this up because I got to go to bed. Start with Tyler. You plugged your stuff already, but if you want to plug it again real quick.
Yeah. Obviously, I do contribute to Voices of Wrestling. I also have my own football website, ccscouting.com. We do mock drafts, big boards, player rankings for the NFL draft. I do specifically mock drafts and a little bit of college football writing, but I also write about the NFL. Give that a look, and it's good stuff.
And Paul, Paul Volsch, who was on the first half, that thought he was going to be back on the second half, but wasn't able to make it. His Twitter is @Darth_Dragon. I'll have that in the description too, in the podcast episode. And he's also a Voice of Wrestling contributor. Does great reviews and a lot of All Japan stuff along with you, obviously, Gerard. So Gerard, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Yeah, Voice of Wrestling contributor. I have a piece that was published last week about All Japan business in 2019 versus 2018. I've got the January 2nd and 3rd show reviews, and I will have a lot more All Japan content coming to VOW.
Yep, that's awesome, and I definitely want to see some more All Japan. They're set up for an exciting year, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
very excited for that Aoyagi title challenge. And Chris, of course, the sport of pro wrestling. Go ahead and give me the big plug, which I think I incorrectly said yesterday. It's the statistics of pro wrestling, but
either way. So I run sportofprowrestling.com, which is kind of a sister site to voicesofwrestling.com now. Most of that is statistics and compilations of different data points and things of that sort. You can find me on Twitter at the Chris Samsa. That's TheChrisSamsa. And a lot of the stuff you heard Kevin Kelly and Gino and the gang talking about throughout Wrestle Kingdom. came through the notes that I sent them. So it's a good time.
All right, and thank you as always for listening, whether you listen live or whether you're listening back to the podcast, which I will have a hell of a time recreating the audio. Oh, I forgot to mention, before Naito won, I decided to put, like last night, I decided to put the Naito's theme from the new piano CD. That's like the little buffer I put between the two parts on the podcast episode. So when you listen back, if you're wondering why you suddenly hear a piano playing Naito's theme song, it's from the new piano album they put out, which is so good. Like it's
awesome.
Yeah, you have to get that if you haven't seen it. It's just like they got like a real like amazing piano player to do it, and he did just really, really good. But yeah, so definitely check that out. That's what that little interlude between the two parts is from. But of course, you can follow us on Twitter at WrestleOmakase, Wrestling Would Not Fit. And folks, next week is our annual Wrestling Omakase Awards episode. So I don't know who the guests are going to be yet. I have to get all that together this week once I sleep for a very long time. So we'll be, going through all the awards, all of our picks, all the final results from the esteemed panel of 2019 Wrestling Omakase guests. I still have to bother a lot of them to fill out their goddamn ballots, but hopefully, I get a few more before the deadline this week, and then I will have the results up on voicesofwrestling.com, and we'll do the awards episode. So it's always a fun time. Check that out next week. In the meantime, thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time.